Chapter 355. Assistant Leader Zhao listened to Hedzwa. Dao Haidang walked over and advised. Zhao Heng gave a long sigh and nodded. Okay, Hedzwa, shall we continue? Zhou Tianxi said lightly. Let's go. After walking for a while, Zhou Tianxi spoke. Our destination is the Stargaze Palace. The changes along the way might not be a trick played by the Stargaze Palace. For sure, the Nine Raven and the Sky Travel Empire do not want us to attack the Stargaze Palace. However, since they cannot interfere openly, it's possible that they will play tricks in the dark. For this matter, we will deal with it after we destroy the Stargaze Palace. Dao Haidang agreed. The head palace master is right. Let's go directly to the Stargaze Palace and not create unnecessary problems. Ever since the shocking change at the Cliff Road, Zhou Tianxi had realized that this trip would not be as simple as the rumors had said. For sure, there would be many changes along the way. Being a formidable figure, of course, he understood the importance of things. They were not in the territory of the Nine Palace, but in a foreign country. Even if this country was far inferior to the Red Dragon Empire, he could not let down his guard. Zhao Heng was convinced. I was reckless. Please don't blame me, Hedzwa. Zhou Tianxi smiled lightly. We are in the same boat. How can I blame you? I still believe that this is not a trick played by the Stargaze Palace. Dao Haidang said, Of course, if the Stargaze Palace had the power to play tricks, how could they be a middle-ranking empire? They would be on par with the Red Dragon Empire. After they had traveled for 100 miles, they still saw a desolate road when they looked forward. There were only deep mountains and old forests in all directions and no open space. When they looked at the sky, it was still morning. It also seemed somewhat absurd to set up camp now. At the moment, Zhou Tianxi could only send the order to continue forward and try to get out of this mountain area as soon as possible. Suddenly, a few rustling sounds came from the nearby forest. Next, a strange voice sang. The archaic mysteries sect is shameless. It's stupid to have led the wolf into the house. The Nine Palace faction is brainless. They can't get away. This voice did not speak the words properly and did not have a perfect accent, as if it was a person who had just learned how to speak. Zhou Tianxi's expression changed slightly. He was finally sure that this wasn't an accident at all. Instead, it was a deliberate plan to target him. The three sect leaders exchanged glances. In the end, Zhou Tianxi suppressed his anger and signaled for the team to continue moving forward and not be distracted. Not long after, the voice sounded again. Nine Palace faction, enter the coffin. Zhou Tianxi, go eat shit. Zhou Tianxi's expression changed again, and he bellowed, Deputy Sect Leaders Zhao and Dao, you two take care of the team. I will go and meet this bastard. After he finished speaking, his figure flashed and disappeared into the forest. Naturally, this voice came from Bao Bao. He kept infuriating Zhou Tianxi, making him lose face. The more Zhou Tianxi tolerated it, the more exaggerated it became. Zhou Tianxi could no longer tolerate it. If they continued to be scolded and slapped in the face without daring to respond, the morale of the Nine Palace faction would continue to drop. Thus, Zhou Tianxi decided to meet this troublemaker. Apparently, Qin Wushuang had sensed that Bao Bao had lured Zhou Tianxi away. With a light smile, he reached into his storage pouch and took out that young Master Zhao. He said in a whisper, Young Master Zhao, your grandfather is on the road outside. Do you want to meet him? Young Master Zhao was an idiot. Plus, he had been unsealed all of a sudden. His brain was not very bright as he yelled, Just who are you? You dare to go against the Nine Palace faction? As soon as he had finished speaking, Qin Wushuang immediately sealed his mute acupoint. It was just that this shout was naturally heard clearly by the people on the outside. Stunned, Zhao Heng thought he had heard wrong. He immediately lowered his ears to listen. Qin Wushuang also unsealed young Master Zhao's mute acupoint. Young Master Zhao yelled again, Bastard, what do you want to do to me? This time, Zhao Heng was 100% certain that it was his grandson's voice. He yelled, Is it my grandson? Initially, young Master Zhao had been sealed inside the storage pouch. Naturally, he did not know what had happened in the outside world. Now, when he heard his grandfather's voice, it was as if a drowning person had grabbed onto a straw. "Grandpa, it's me. Is it really you?" "Grandpa? Who caught you?" Zhao Heng asked in a low voice. Qin Wushuang covered young Master Zhao's mouth. Young Master Zhao could not help but struggle and let out some sounds. On the contrary, Zhao Heng had calmed down. He patted a spiritual beast next to him and gestured with his hand, "Go take a look." That spiritual beast hesitated for a moment and went in. Qin Wushuang did not hold back as he stood there with a smile. He hung young Master Zhao on the branch with his snake-shaped soft whip. That spiritual beast looked around for a moment. Besides Qin Wushuang, there was no one else. Instantly, he scuttled back and spoke a few words to Zhao Heng. Zhao Heng turned around and said to Dao Haitang, "Assistant Leader Dao, my grandson is right before you. I am going to save him." Dao Haitang said with a determined tone, "You cannot go." "Assistant Leader Dao, if it was your grandson, would you say this?" There was a trace of anger in Zhao Heng's tone. "I don't have a grandson. Even if I did, I would not go." Dao Haitang said, "It's clear that the enemy is luring you to take the bait or to lure the tiger away from the mountain. They lured Head Zhuo away, and now they want to lure you away. This is a tactic to break you down one by one." Zhao Heng's chest moved up and down as his face darkened. Which bastard is playing tricks? The Stargaze Palace would not have such devilish people. Could it be someone from the Nine Raven Empire? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his speculation was reasonable. His grandson had gone missing at the Nine Raven Empire, and the Nine Raven Temple of the Nine Raven Empire was the best at training spiritual beasts. They were close to the dispersed praying mountain and were blessed by the heavens. They had an advantage in training spiritual beasts that others could not reach. All signs indicated that the Nine Raven Temple was most likely the culprit behind all of this. While he was lost in his thoughts, a wave of miserable cries emerged. "Grandpa, save me!" This cry was heart-wrenching. Without a doubt, he was enduring some cruel punishment. "Zhao Heng, let me take out your grandson's internal organs and braise them in a pot. How about it?" Qin Wushuang lowered his voice and deliberately growled with a hoarse voice. From his tone, there was a trace of ridicule and brutality. Among the Nine Palace faction, Zhao Heng was the person he hated the most. Even in his dreams, Qin Wushuang wanted to eat his flesh and skin him alive. The muscles on Zhao Heng's face kept twitching. How could he not know that this was indeed the enemy's scheme? However, as someone who cared for his grandson, even if he knew it was a scheme, how could he ignore it? Blood was thicker than water. His grandson was his direct descendant. Now that his son was no longer in the world, could he ignore his grandson's little bloodline and leave his life to fate? Immediately, Zhao Heng's selfishness overflowed. He gritted his teeth and said to Dao Haitang, "Assistant Leader Dao, please take care of this place. I have to go take a look." As he said this, he did not allow Dao Haitang to object. He pulled a spiritual beast and quickly jumped into the forest. Dao Haitang was furious. "Zhao Heng, you're going against leaders' orders." Zhao Heng yelled, "If my bloodline is destroyed, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Please understand, Assistant Leader Dao." Dao Haitang muttered, "Foolish beyond compare, foolish beyond compare." Then he shouted, "Everyone, be on your best behavior." The remaining 5 spiritual beasts split into 5 directions and form a circular sentry post within 1,000 meters. Don't let any force enter. Dao Haitang's mind was much clearer than Zhao Heng's. When Qin Wushuang saw Zhao Heng enter, he pulled his snake-shaped soft whip and brought young Master Zhao into the depths of the forest. When Zhao Heng saw his grandson, he was anxious and shot his spear from afar. "Bastard, leave my grandson!" Qin Wushuang said coldly. "Come and get him yourself if you have the ability." Zhao Heng's brute force exploded. "Then let's see who has the ability." As he said this, he also followed in. On the other hand, this forest was extremely lush. Zhao Heng followed that person's path and continued to follow him. Although he was restraining his fear inwardly, He did not care much as he wanted to protect his grandson. However, after all, he was a cunning person. He let the spiritual beasts lead the way and followed closely behind. After chasing for about 10 miles, Zhao Heng suddenly stopped. He stood still with a cold sneer and looked to the side. "Come out. No need to hide anymore." From the left side of the forest, a figure slowly walked out. However, his expression was stiff, and one could not see any emotions. "Zhao Heng, do you still remember me?" This low voice carried a trace of debt collection. Zhao Heng was stunned. "Who are you?" Of course, this person was Tan Zhongqi. He sneered. "It seems you don't have a good memory." Zhao Heng shouted. "Stop talking nonsense. Where is my grandson?" "Grandson, Grandpa is here." A person on the right laughed lightly. Zhao Heng turned around abruptly, and the pupils in his eyes shrunk rapidly. It was because he saw a wave of green light shooting towards him. The speed of the light was so familiar. This scene was a repeat of the battle at the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace. Only, the temperament of this arrow seemed to have increased by a few times. Zhao Heng turned pale with fright. "You guys," immediately he scrambled to the side to dodge. He knew that the power of this arrow was incomparable and could not be blocked by brute force. Whoosh! Another arrow locked onto Zhao Heng's direction of movement, as if he had already calculated all his escape routes. Zhao Heng rolled his body in the air and jumped up continuously. With fast footsteps, he kept borrowing power from the surrounding trees and tried to jump out of the attack range of this graceful spiritual bow. Suddenly, Tan Zhongqi gave a light shout. He grabbed with his hand, and a battle blade appeared in his hand. Like a sharp arrow, his body shot towards Zhao Heng's back. Zhao Heng was attacked continuously and did not have the strength to fight back. Again, he scrambled and jumped forward. At this moment, with a flash of light, a wave of blue light disappeared into the sky. Chi! With a crisp sound, something seemed to have scratched Zhao Heng's body lightly. Suddenly, his body sank and fell to the ground. He opened his eyes widely and looked around in disbelief. 3 figures kept approaching him, and Zhao Heng's vision gradually became blurry. He didn't even know who had hit him and realized that a fatal sword had pierced his chest. "You guys, who are you guys?" Zhao Heng's eyes were filled with confusion and unwillingness. Tan Zhongqi grabbed his mask. "Zhao Heng, on that day when you shot me with the spear, do you know about today's karma?" "It's you?" Suddenly, Zhao Heng's pupils enlarged. He looked at the other 2 people. Of course, they were Zhuobuchuan and Qin Wushuang. Zhao Heng opened his mouth and wanted to shout to remind his colleagues. Yet, he realized that although he had opened his mouth, his vocal cords could not make a single sound. How was it possible? How is it possible? Zhao Heng almost went crazy. His head was in a mess, and countless thoughts flashed across his mind. In the end, they turned into endless despair. Boom! Under the combined attack of these 3 people, this arrogant assistant leader of the 9 Palace fell with a loud bang. All of his arrogance and conceit vanished into thin air with the sound of his voice. Finally, I finished writing. My hands are cramping, haha. Monthly votes. In the end, I will shout at the top of my lungs for 2010. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 356. Tan Zhongqi put on his mask again and made a hand gesture to Zhuobuchuan. Then, the 2 of them retreated from their original place. Qin Wushuang followed the plan and rolled up Zhao Heng's body. In a flash, he disappeared into the forest. After a moment, Qin Wushuang had sneaked back to the nearby area where the main force of the 9 Palace was stationed. Roar! A low roar shook the forest. Suddenly, a figure as fast as lightning seemed to have scrambled out from the sky. Layers of greetings spread out in the sky. Suddenly, it retracted and attached itself to the body of a giant spiritual beast. That spiritual beast grabbed with its claws, and with a whoosh, a dozen waves of strong wind appeared. With a crackling sound, it swept towards each of the 9 Palace people at the scene. Dao Haitang shouted in a low voice, "Everyone be careful." She grabbed with her hand, and a short sword appeared in her hand. She slashed at the direction where the strong wind had come from. With a booming sound, as soon as the two waves of power clashed, the strong wind shot out in all directions. Dao Haidang only felt her dantian sink. The rebounding power of that spiritual qi had caused her dantian to tremble. This bastard! Such powerful power! Inwardly, Dao Haitang's heart tightened. She flicked both of her sleeves, and two waves of light flew out from her sleeves. With the urging of the light, the sleeves seemed to have been bestowed with life. Like a dragon or a snake, both of them rushed to the hind legs of that spiritual beast. Of course, this spiritual beast was the purple flame electric beast. Bao Bao was in charge of luring Zhuo Tianxi away. Qin Wushuang would use the opportunity to provoke Zhao Hong and lure him away. He would separate the three perfect stage warriors to create an opportunity for the purple flame electric beast. As long as there were no two perfect stage warriors working together, he could do whatever he wanted. Before Dao Haitang's flying sleeves had reached him, the body of the purple flame electric beast had already jumped to the edge. Suddenly, he rolled his body and started to spin in circles. He spun at a fast speed, and waves of afterimages formed a giant circle. With a whoosh, he seemed to have drawn a circle of prohibition. Whoosh! Suddenly, the purple flame electric beast opened his mouth and spat out a wave of raging flames. As soon as the raging flames were activated, row after row of magnificent fireballs formed into a row and bombarded Li Mu. Once this aura was activated, the battle was instantly under its control. The fire that the purple flame electric beast breathed out was the true fire that had condensed the essence of the fire attribute. Although it had yet to reach perfection, when this fire was breathed out, it instantly trapped all the elders in the circle. Inside the circle, flames suddenly soared into the sky. Smoke and fire filled the air, igniting the grass and trees. Although those elders were all at the perfect stage, before this powerful fire, they could only use all sorts of methods to protect themselves. For a time, they activated all sorts of fire protection tools and barely managed to save their lives. Each of them scrambled towards the circle in an embarrassing state. They knew that if they didn't leave after being trapped by the spirit beast, how would they be able to resist when the fire avoidance talisman's effect wore off? Therefore, there was only one way to survive, and that was to break out of this circle. Only by doing so would he be able to preserve his life. However, right now, the purple flame electric beast was in high spirits. The anger that had been suppressed for thousands of years finally had a chance to be released today. Naturally, he would wreak havoc. He did not allow these elders to escape as he breathed out the true fire from his mouth everywhere. His body dashed forward and a remnant shadow flashed past. The purple flame electric beast's front claws had already drawn a wave of arc light. Kacha! Chi! One of the elders was hit by this arc light directly. With a swish, his body was broken into two halves as he fell forward. Instantly, blood flowed to the ground. After seeing the fresh blood, the purple flame electric beast became even more reckless. He charged straight towards those elders. Opening the path, he turned around and breathed out the true fire from his mouth. He forced back Dao Haidang, who was approaching him. Once again, he put his two front claws together and pressed down on one of the elders. Instantly, he fell to the ground. Regardless of speed or spiritual qi, that elder was at a disadvantage. Before he could react, after being pressed down by the purple flame electric beast, the purple flame electric beast pulled with his claws and tore apart the two arms of that elder. Next, he kicked the remains of this elder's body into the sky. Then, he grabbed the legs of that elder with his claws and tore them apart. With a crash, the power of this tear tore apart that elder from his feet to his neck. It was as if a salted duck had been torn into two halves. His internal organs kept falling down. The purple flame electric beast called out with a cackle. Satisfying, satisfying. Only I, the purple flame electric beast, am invincible. Swift and fierce, it's up to you, Senior Lone. While he wreaked havoc, he dashed forward and broke that group of elders into pieces. Each of these elders were at the advanced stage. In their entire life, even when they were fighting alone, they rarely failed. However, at this moment, even with 10 elders together, they could not do anything. They had completely lost their formation, and in the blink of an eye, 2 of them had been killed by the purple flame electric beast. The speed of the purple flame electric beast did not even give them the chance to attack together. Like lightning, he dashed and flashed like a sickle passing through wheat. With a swish, he would harvest a life. Dao Haidang was flustered and exasperated. After all, she was at the perfect stage. However, regardless of how she attacked the other party, she could not keep up with the speed of this spiritual beast. As soon as she lost her rhythm, the other party could easily spit out a row of genuine fire and make her flustered. She kept hissing and calling for help. In this situation, if Head Zhua and assistant Zhao did not come back to help, most likely this wild forest would become the day of the destruction of the elite warriors of the Nine Palace faction. At this moment, suddenly, a hoarse, cold laugh came from the outside. "That woman, you kept hissing. Are you asking for help from Zhao Hong? He's back." This voice belonged to Qin Wushuang. Before he had finished speaking, he flung the whip from his hand and threw Zhao Heng's head over. Dao Haidang rolled up her sleeve unconsciously and caught the object. She fixed her gaze and saw that it was Zhao Heng's head. This shock almost caused Dao Haidang to vomit a mouthful of blood. Assistant Leader Zhao. Although Dao Haidang did not get along well with Zhao Hong, at this moment, she was both shocked and furious. She knew that with Zhao Heng's death, the Nine Palace faction had suffered a great loss and had encountered a tough opponent. Although she hated Zhao Hong for leaving the team on his own accord, she still felt some sympathy when she saw his severed head. She hissed 3 times to warn Zhuo Tianxi. This was the most critical call for help between the higher-ups of the Nine Palace faction. When he heard this voice, regardless of the situation, he must rush to help. Currently, Zhuo Tianxi had not gone far. Within a few dozen miles, he was engaged in a fierce battle with the mutated Bao Bao. Naturally, Bao Bao had transformed into the Gold Monkey King and changed his image of teasing Zhuo Tianxi at the Nine Palace faction. Thus, Zhuo Tianxi did not know that the monkey he was fighting with was the furry spiritual beast that had lured him away and caused the mountain gate of the Nine Palace faction to be burned. Hearing this sharp whistle, Zhuo Tianxi's heart sank as he knew that the situation was not good. He waved his weapon and transformed into a wave of yellow light to dash forward. He shouted, "Stupid monkey, don't let me see you in the future." Bao Bao knew that Zhuo Tianxi was powerful. A moment ago, he had also struggled when fighting with Zhuo Tianxi. However, this battle had allowed him to consolidate his perfect stage. Unknowingly, he had gained a steady improvement during the battle. When he saw Zhuo Tianxi had retreated, although he wanted to make him stay, he knew that Zhuo Tianxi was indeed powerful. With his current strength, he could not trap Zhuo Tianxi to death. Thus, he followed behind Zhuo Tianxi and shouted, "Nine Palace faction, enter the coffin. Zhuo Tianxi, go eat shit." "Ha. Zhuo Tianxi, this time, you didn't prepare a few more coffins?" Bao Bao could not help but provoke Zhuo Tianxi. Inwardly, Zhuo Tianxi was furious. Yet, he suppressed his anger and rushed to the original location. In the dark, Qin Wushuang had already prepared the graceful spiritual bow and started to aim at Dao Haidang. He moved his lips and whistled. The purple flame electric beast understood tacitly and suddenly pushed aside those elders. With a whoosh, he rushed towards Dao Haidang like a small mountain. Dao Haidang scolded angrily. "Bastard, I will cut you into pieces." She rolled up her sleeves, and 2 blade lights rolled up towards the belly of the purple flame electric beast. The purple flame electric beast snorted disdainfully. He pressed down with both of his claws and waved 2 balls of air to press down. With 2 booming sounds, it hit those blade lights. The spiritual qi dispersed in all directions. Dao Haidang was not afraid of the purple flame electric beast. She knew that this monster was fast and could spit fire. Although Dao Haidang could not kill the purple flame electric beast, she could protect herself. She rolled up both of her sleeves, and like a fairy scattering flowers, the blade lights kept rolling out and slashed towards the purple flame electric beast. At this moment, Qin Wushuang revealed a trace of a satisfied smile. He pulled the bow and shot out the arrow. Whoosh! This arrow was shot after accumulating power. It was a calculated move against an unintentional one. He urged his temperament, and with the power to devour everything, it was already behind Dao Haidang at lightning speed. Suddenly, Dao Haidang felt a wave of desperate, murderous intent rushing at her from behind. In a moment of desperation, she did not think carefully and initiated a golden protective talisman. Whoosh! A layer of golden light covered her entire body. Waves of golden lights shot out in all directions and wrapped around that jade-green arrow. Boom! The aura of the jade-green arrow exploded. It had blown away that golden light, and Dao Haidang seized the opportunity to dash to the side. Humph! Where are you running to? Suddenly, a wave of blade light slashed out from the forest on the side. When this blade slashed down, it had instantly locked the sky and left Dao Haidang with no way to move forward. Now, Dao Haidang realized that this path was also blocked by an elite warrior. The power of this blade attack was the temperament and skill of a perfect stage warrior. Inwardly, Dao Haidang thought, where did all these perfect stage warriors come from? Just as she turned around, Qin Wushuang's second and third arrow arrived at the same time. Whoosh whoosh. Two waves of green lights rushed into Dao Haitang's body at an extremely fast speed. After the green lights had crashed into her body, they suddenly disappeared. Then, they broke through her chest. Boom! Instantly, two bloody holes rushed out from Dao Haitang's chest. Suddenly, Dao Haitang's body stopped, and her entire body stiffened. She looked down in despair, and her expression had become extremely strange. How could this be? When Dao Haidang looked back with disbelief, she saw that the spiritual qi inside her body had started to spread out in despair. Her dantian had shattered. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 357. At this moment, Zhuotianxi's whistling sound had gradually approached. Assistant Leader Dao, what's going on? As soon as Zhuotianxi had arrived, Zhongqi and Zhuobuchuan made a hand gesture and retreated again. They knew that Zhuotianxi's strength was incomparable to Zhao Heng and Dao Haidang. Qin Wushuang blew the whistle and flew quickly. He grabbed Dao Haitang's body with his hand and left the scene with the purple flame electric beast into the vast forest. Earlier, when Qin Wushuang had taken away Zhao Heng's body, he had already used the power of Deep North to absorb all of Zhao Heng's spiritual qi. Now, Dao Haitang's dantian was shattered, and her spiritual qi was flowing away rapidly. While Qin Wushuang walked, he guided the power of Deep North to absorb her spiritual qi again. It would be a pity if he did not absorb such a feast. He had only absorbed 2/3 of Zhao Heng's spiritual qi and lost 1/3. However, at least half of Dao Haitang's spiritual qi had been lost. Despite this fact, Qin Wushuang had still absorbed a lot of powerful spiritual qi. One could imagine the strength of the spiritual qi of two perfect stage warriors. To Qin Wushuang, this feast was a great nourishment. It was also a great opportunity for him to improve his strength. If he used it well, not only would he stabilize his advanced stage, he could even gain the qualification to aim for the perfect stage. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang felt a strong sense of expectation. He knew that the advanced stage was still not safe in the human countries. If he did not use the graceful spiritual bow well when encountering a perfect stage warrior, he would still be in a passive situation. However, once he reached the perfect stage, everything would be different. The process of absorbing the spiritual qi would not take a long time, and to digest and merge the spiritual qi, he would need a safe place and a long time to complete it. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was excited. Of course, Zhao Hung and Dao Haitong's spiritual qi had benefited him greatly. Most importantly, this battle had dealt a heavy blow to the Nine Palace. Regardless of Zhuo Tianxi's backer, at least for now, the Nine Palace would not be able to move east to deal with the Stargaze Palace. Without a doubt, the Nine Palace faction's strength and morale had fallen to the lowest point in this battle. Thinking of this, Qin Wushuang rushed into the mountain forest to meet up with his master and the Lord Palace Master. Bao Bao also took advantage of the chaos and scrambled to the agreed location. Both Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi's face was filled with surprise. They had indeed gained a lot from this battle. It had completely destroyed the Nine Palace faction's attack plan. Head Palace Master, the two vice leaders of the Nine Palace faction have been killed. The crisis of the Stargaze Palace should have been resolved, right? Inwardly, Tan Zhongqi felt carefree. Although Zhuo Buqian was excited, he remained calm. If Zhuo Tianxi had not lost his mind, he would not have gone deeper. Now that things have come to this, no matter if he advances or retreats, we must seize the opportunity to pursue and attack. Tan Zhongqi agreed. Yes, let's take advantage of the situation and pursue them. It would be best if we could annihilate all the warriors from the Nine Palace faction that invaded the great Luo Empire. However, Zhuo Buqian shook his head. We can kill the others. However, since Wu Tianxi is related to the Xianyuan Mound, I am afraid the Xianyuan Mound will not let it go easily if we kill him. However, Tan Zhongqi said, after this defeat, would Wu Tianxi let it go? Whether we kill him or not, I am afraid we will attract the elite warriors of the Xianyuan Mound. Zhuo Buqian gave a long sigh. There is a great difference between Zhuo Tianxi being dead or alive. Qin Wushuang said, Head Palace Master, without further ado, let's give Zhuo Tianxi another surprise. Currently, he only has 8 advanced stage elders. In terms of absolute strength, we already have the upper hand. When Zhuo Tianxi returned to the camp, besides the remains of the elders, each of the remaining 8 elders were extremely terrified as they went up to confess their crimes. Zhuo Tianxi could not believe his eyes as he glanced around. Where are the 2 vice leaders Zhao and Dao? Head Zhuo. Vice leader Zhao did not listen to vice leader Dao's advice and left the team. He was killed and his head was thrown back. First, vice leader Dao was attacked by a spiritual beast at the perfect stage. Then, someone shot arrows from the dark. Besides, there was also a perfect stage that used a blade spying on her from the side. 3 perfect stage warriors surrounded vice leader Dao. In 1 or 2 rounds, they were killed by the enemy's arrows. The bodies were all taken away. Zhuo Tianxi was dumbstruck. Now, he was extremely regretful. I got tricked again. Zhuo Tianxi mumbled inwardly. That monkey kept challenging me to lure me out. I thought that with the 2 vice leaders here, they could control the situation. Unexpectedly, Zhao Hung did not follow the orders and left the team. That's why we ended up in such a situation where we lost everything. In his entire life, Zhuo Tianxi had never made any mistakes. Regardless of which powerhouse he had become enemies with, he had never suffered such a crushing defeat. Before he even knew who the enemy was, more than half of the elite warriors of the Nine Palace had died. The enemy had at least 3 or 4 perfect stage warriors. Even their spiritual beasts were at the perfect stage. In the human countries, which country has spiritual beasts at the perfect stage? And 2 of them. Zhuo Tianxi still felt incredulous when he thought about it. No wonder Zhuo Tianxi was a formidable figure. After a moment of chaos, he regained his senses and ordered, You 8, retreat immediately. Use your best wind talisman and leave the great Luo Empire as fast as you can. One of the elders was stunned and asked, What about you, Head Zhuo? Zhuo Tianxi said with a cold smile. They're afraid that the Nine Palace will go to the Stargaze Palace. So I will go. Stargaze Palace. I will make you pay 10 times and 100 times for all the lives you have sacrificed. Head Zhuo, don't say any more. Nothing will happen to me. In the human countries, no one has ever made a move on me. Of course, Zhuo Tianxi had his support. The elders were speechless and could only obey the order. Go now. Now, Zhuetianzi had already predicted the enemy's tactic. They would send him away and kill his subordinates. They would kill them one by one and make him a general without an army. Thus, letting these subordinates leave would allow Zhuetianzi to move freely and deal with the enemy without any worries. Those elders did not dare to hesitate, as they all activated the wind talisman and ran away with their fastest speed. They did not dare to stay for a moment. Zhuetianzi gave a long whistle. Thieves, I know you're nearby. If you have the guts, come out and fight with me. It's not a skill to hide the head and show the tail. Since you are afraid of me going to the Stargaze Palace, I will go there and kill to my heart's content. Qin Wushuang's heart tightened. Head Palace Master, Teacher, it seems that Zhuetianzi has already dismissed his subordinates. Zhuo Buqian also nodded in a low voice. That's right. Tan Zhongqi swore in a whisper. This Zhuetianzi is rather cunning. He saw through her tactic. However, Qin Wushuang said, so what if he saw through it? For sure, they must have used something like the wind talisman to increase their speed. Head Palace Master, Teacher, you two can go chase after those elders. My two friends and I will play with Zhuetianzi. Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi looked at each other and nodded. Okay, Wushuang, our goal for this battle is to destroy the main force of the Nine Palace. We cannot fight against Zhuetianzi. We can only deal with him. We must remember this point. Qin Wushuang said with a smile. I know. Tan Zhongqi said seriously. Wushuang, don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi also activated the wind talisman and went around the forest. They took the shortcut and chased after them. They must catch up to those elders before that cliff road. Qin Wushuang said to the purple flame electric beast, Lone, this time you will go and lure Zhuetianzi away. Keep him busy. It will be your credit if you can hold him back for 3 or 5 days. After 10 days, we will regroup at the Red Cloud Mountain outside, the imperial capital of the Great Luo Empire. The purple flame electric beast was extremely excited. This time, it's my turn. With a dash, he disappeared before their eyes. Qin Wushuang said with a smile, Bao Bao, come with me to find a remote place. I need to train in isolation for a few days. Bao Bao's eyes lit up. Boss Wushuang, you're going to break through? Qin Wushuang shook his head with a smile. It's not this early. However, if I consolidate it well, it's possible for me to break through. Bao Bao said excitedly. Great, if Boss Wushuang can break through, the three of us at the perfect stage can travel together. That would be impressive. Stop talking nonsense, let's go. This time, the absorption was Qin Wushuang's greatest harvest since he had stepped onto the path of martial arts. At the same time, he had absorbed the spiritual qi from 2 elite warriors at the perfect stage. Although it was not 100% absorption, it was incomparable to any of the previous times. Qin Wushuang only felt his dantian throbbing. 2 waves of spiritual qi from 2 completely different sources had already started to swim around his dantian. It was as if 2 rivals had met on a narrow path. The winner would emerge victorious. Qin Wushuang knew that Zhao Heng's spiritual qi was masculine and Dao Haitong's was feminine. It would be more troublesome to digest these 2 different spiritual qi. Fortunately, with Bao Bao as his right-hand man, Qin Wushuang easily found a remote place and started his solitary training. With Bao Bao protecting him from the outside, Qin Wushuang did not need to worry about anything. Even if Zhuetianzi had barged into this place unintentionally, Bao Bao could still restrain him and buy some time for Qin Wushuang. Inside Qin Wushuang's dantian, 2 waves of powerful spiritual qi dashed madly towards his dantian. Qin Wushuang was not in a rush as he guided the flow of qi in his dantian slowly. For sure, the speed of the absorption would affect the purity. If it was too slow, it would affect the efficiency. Thus, he needed to have a good grasp of it. Fortunately, Qin Wushuang was already familiar with this process. Although the spiritual qi he was absorbing was completely different, the method was the same. 7 days after 7 days, Qin Wushuang finally opened his eyes. He slowly moved his dantian, and a wave of powerful qi circulated inside his dantian. There were no longer any traces of impurities. He had succeeded. Zhuetianzi. A trace of a playful smile emerged from the corner of Qin Wushuang's mouth. Although Li Bai said that I cannot kill you, how could I, Qin Wushuang, be a person that binds my own hands and feet? If you cannot forget the Stargaze Palace, even if you are someone I cannot kill, I will kill you sooner or later. Now, I will play with you and let you know how difficult it is to defeat you. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 358. Boss Wushuang. You seem to be in high spirits. It seems you have improved again. Bao Bao jumped out excitedly and jumped on a Qin Wushuang's shoulder. Before entering battle mode, Bao Bao still liked to show his cute and fluffy appearance. Qin Wushuang said with a smile, Bao Bao, in 3 days, we must make it to the Red Cloud Mountain and regroup with Lone. Bao Bao laughed. Boss Wushuang, don't you have the Windwalk Talisman? It's easy to make it to the Red Cloud Mountain. Qin Wushuang nodded. Let's go. Indeed, Zhuetianzi did not look at the almanac before he left the house. Now, he was filled with anger. He felt extremely strange. At the cliff road, 2 elders had died before he could even see the face of the spiritual beast. Then, they were lured away by a golden-haired monkey and a strange battle ensued. In the end, Zhao Hong had left the team without permission and caused the collapse of the main force of the Nine Palace faction. The enemy perfect stage had found the opportunity and suffered heavy losses. Now, he was rushing to the Stargaze Palace wholeheartedly. He decided to ignore any disturbances and go straight to the Stargaze Palace. However, another monster had jumped out. Its speed was extremely fast, and it breathed fire from its mouth. Zhuetianzi could not avoid the battle, even if he wanted to. He wanted to kill this evil beast. However, regardless of how hard he tried, although he could gain the upper hand, this beast was extremely cunning. Once the situation turned bad, it retreated immediately, and Zhuetianzi knew that he could not catch up with its speed. When Zhuetianzi planned to hurry, this guy appeared again and breathed a few mouthfuls of genuine fire. It made Zhuetianzi unable to decide whether he should fight or not. He had completely lost the upper hand. He could only grit his teeth with hatred. However, there was nothing he could do. Although the speed of his march to the Stargaze Palace was affected, Zhuetianzi made up his mind to kill at the Stargaze Palace to relieve the hatred in his heart. After 6 or 7 days, Zhuetianzi strangely discovered that the number of times that spiritual beast appeared seemed to decrease each day. On the 8th or 9th day, that spiritual beast had completely disappeared. This should be a good thing. However, Zhuetianzi could not feel any joy. He felt that this matter was very strange. There was most likely some great conspiracy behind it. Zhuetianzi gritted his teeth. Once they entered the territory of the Great Luo Empire, they were met with setbacks at every step. The difficulty was comparable to conquering the Sky Travel Empire or the Nine Raven Empire. On this day, Zhuetianzi raised his head and looked ahead. It was a majestic mountain. There was a trace of a sneer on the corner of Zhuetianzi's mouth. No matter what tricks the other party is playing, the Great Luo Empire's imperial capital is behind the Red Cloud Mountain. To the southeast of the imperial capital is the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace. Zhuetianzi made up his mind. It was only a few hundred miles. After these few hundred miles, it will be the time for me to start a massacre at the Stargaze Palace. While he was pondering, a light flashed in front of him. The purple flame electric beast scuttled out from the side of the mountain path. He snorted twice at Zhuetianzi as if he was demonstrating his power. Then he growled from the bottom of his throat, woo-woo. This narrow mountain path was occupied by the purple flame electric beast. It was not easy for Zhuetianzi to pass through. They could either climb over the mountain or defeat the other party. Zhuetianzi shouted coldly, Bastard, are you not afraid that I will skin you alive? At this moment, suddenly, a cold sneer came from the top of the mountain. Zhuetianzi, you are all alone. You're like a turtle in a jar when you are deep in the encirclement. You sure talk big. Qin Wushuang stood halfway up the mountain. Wearing a mask, he appeared extremely comfortable with a smile on his face. Currently, Zhuetianzi was alone and in the territory of the Great Luo Empire. He did not have much capital to make Qin Wushuang fearful of him. Ever since Zhuetianzi had entered the Great Luo Empire, he had encountered many obstacles along the way. Today was the first time he had seen the traces of the enemy. For the rest of the time, he had been dealing with spiritual beasts. Inwardly, Zhuetianzi's heart was lifted. Inwardly, he had made up his mind that since this person had appeared, then he would use him as a sacrifice. Although he had made this decision, he was not in a rush. Inwardly, he kept calculating. He narrowed his eyes into a line and asked coldly, "Mister, there should be a limit to pretending to be a ghost. Who are you, and why don't you dare to show your true face?" Qin Wushuang laughed. "Isn't Heads one ambitious and ruthless person with a flawless plan? Since you dare to attack the Great Luo Empire, then you should know all the elite warriors of the Great Luo Empire. Haven't you heard of the old saying, 'Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated'?" Zhuetianzi sneered. "The Great Luo Empire? You are hiding your head, but showing your tail. I am afraid you are not from the Great Luo Empire?" Qin Wushuang was startled. Then he laughed. "Hedzwa, it doesn't matter where I am from. If you can kill me, then everything will come to light." Qin Wushuang pondered for a moment and immediately understood Zhuetianzi's intention. This time, the Nine Palace faction had suffered a great loss. Logically speaking, an existence that could cause the Nine Palace faction to be in such a sorry state should not appear in the Great Luo Empire. Therefore, Zhuetianzi's suspicion was reasonable. However, to Qin Wushuang, the more suspicious Zhuetianzi was, the more he enjoyed it. If he could strike a heavy blow to the Nine Palace faction and get rid of the Stargaze Palace, it would be a great profit with a small capital. What he thought here, he had an idea. He decided to continue to pretend to be mysterious and make Zhuetianzi even more suspicious. Inwardly, Zhuetianzi was also calculating, this person is acting this fearless. Could it be there are other ambushes on that slope? Per the words of those elders, besides a sneak attack, there was also a human at the perfect stage that had attacked Assistant Leader Dao. Besides them, there was also this bastard with an extremely fast speed. When he thought here, suddenly, Zhuetianzi had an idea. Sneak attack? Didn't Assistant Leader Zhao also get injured by a sneak attack from the Stargaze Palace? Could it be the Stargaze Palace is behind this? When Zhuetianzi thought here, a wave of absurdity emerged inwardly. Then he denied it inwardly. Impossible! The power of the Stargaze Palace would never be this powerful. If they had such power, the Great Luo would have already become the ruler of the East and become an upper-ranking empire. Zhuetianzi was familiar with the rules of the human countries in the Tianxian land. If a country had one perfect stage, perhaps they would not have such a strange reaction. However, if they had two or even three, they would not be willing to be left out. For sure, they would have more demands. With the Great Luo as an example, if the Stargaze Palace had 3 or 4 perfect stage warriors, how could they be willing to be a middle-ranking empire and not raise their flag in the East and become an upper-ranking empire? Zhuetianzi, do you still remember that fire at the mountain gate of the Nine Palace faction? When Qin Wushuang saw Zhuetianzi remaining silent, he spoke again to provoke him. Zhuetianzi raised his head in surprise, and a trace of anger shot out from his eyes. "So, you also set that fire?" The purple flame electric beast gave a low growl and rubbed his front paws. He glared at Zhuetianzi as if to show off his power. Apparently, he was telling Zhuetianzi that he had set the fire. Instantly, Zhuetianzi realized the light. "So it was you, you bastard." When the purple flame electric beast heard Zhuetianzi calling him a bastard, he was furious. If it weren't for Qin Wushuang's order, he would have already rushed up to fight with Zhuetianzi. Qin Wushuang said with a smile, Zhu Dazhong was also ordered by the Nine Palace to go to the dispersed praying mountain, right? So Tianzi only felt his hair stand up as he said coldly, "You do know a lot. It seems that you already have the intention to go against the Nine Palace." Qin Wushuang laughed. "The Nine Palace is full of ambition. You want to take over the endless Eastern Sea and rule over the human countries. How could you hide such ambition from the eyes and ears of the world? Those were only a warning to the Nine Palace." Zhuetianzi, this time, you mustered a large force and went to the east with great momentum. If you were to return with your entire army annihilated, have you ever thought about where you would put your face in the future? Zhuetianzi said lightly, "Man proposes, God disposes. Besides playing tricks, what other skills do you have? It would be a dream to annihilate the entire Nine Palace faction." Qin Wushuang laughed leisurely. "Is that so?" Zhuetianzi's heart sank. When he saw Qin Wushuang's leisurely expression, his heart twitched as if he had been hit by a whip. The muscles on his face tightened as he stared at Qin Wushuang coldly. "What do you mean?" Qin Wushuang still smiled lightly. "It's nothing. I have 2 perfect stage friends, and they're already going to greet your 8 elders. If nothing unexpected happens, they should be able to kill them before the cliff road. Of course, 2 perfect stage warriors might not be able to annihilate all 8 elders. However, it should not be a problem to kill 5 or 6 of them in a surprise attack, right?" Zhuetianzi's chest seemed to have been hit by a heavy hammer. His pupils shrunk rapidly as his chest moved up and down. "Do you have any confidence in your boasting? 2 perfect stage warriors. In this world, how could there be so many perfect stage warriors?" Qin Wushuang said leisurely, "Don't you have 3 perfect stage warriors in the Nine Palace faction? It's just that you're the only one left," sect leader Zhua. "Head Zhua, this Red Cloud Mountain has beautiful scenery. Although it is somewhat lonely as the place to bury their bones, it would not be a disgrace to your identity. What do you think?" Zhuetianzi laughed. At this point, he had thrown away all the burdens in his heart. It's still unknown who will be buried here. Suddenly, he lifted his body and initiated a wave of strong light from his hand. His body had already dashed up a few dozen meters and rushed towards Qin Wushuang. Roar! With a wave of angry roars from the hillside, a giant golden monkey jumped out from the bushes. He held a giant stick and smashed it towards Zhuetianzi's head. With an ah sound, Zhuetianzi met it with the weapon in his hand. Boom! The collision of the powerful aura spread out waves of spiritual chi storm. It blew the red trees on both sides down like twigs. The purple flame electric beast was a warrior. As soon as he saw the start of the battle, he gave a loud roar and jumped up. He spat out a wave of genuine fire from his mouth and attacked Zhuetianzi from behind. Although Zhuetianzi was attacked from the front and back, he did not panic inwardly. He turned around and slashed with the giant blade in his hand. The purple flame electric beast only felt a gust of wind on his head as he lowered his body and evaded the attack. At this moment, less than 20 miles away from the Red Cloud Mountain, another 2 long howling sounds came from the outside. This sound was full of vigor and unceasing. Like the roar of a dragon or a tiger, it kept pushing forward. Today is New Year's Day, a rare holiday. I spent some time with my family. I will only update 3 chapters. Tomorrow I will give everyone a New Year's eruption. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 359. Naturally, Qin Wushuang was overjoyed when he heard these whistles. He knew that the 2 palace masters had returned. Could it be that the 2 palace masters had already killed those elders? Just as Qin Wushuang was thinking, 2 whistles came closer. Another 2 perfect stage warriors. Zhuetianzi felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Inwardly, he felt even more hopeless when he remembered the words of the other party. Could it be those elders, 2 human perfect stage warriors, and 2 spiritual beasts were also at the perfect stage? And that person on the slope was acting mysteriously. He did not know his exact strength. However, he should not be an ordinary warrior. When Zhuotianzi thought here, how could he still have the slightest desire to fight? Anyways, I didn't look at the almanac this time. For sure, this trip will be fruitless. I will make plans after I return to the Nine Palace. When Zhuotianzi thought here, he mumbled to himself. Suddenly, he rolled the giant blade in his hand and turned it into a ball of yellow light. That yellow light rolled on the ground and disappeared in a flash, as if it was the air. Bao Bao and the purple flame electric beast were about to catch up when Qin Wushuang gave a low whistle. Let him go. When these two beasts saw that yellow light disappear, they knew that Zhuotianzi had used the earth movement technique to leave. However, this technique was performed with the help of tools. Thus, it was extremely fast, and the depth of the earth movement was also extraordinary. Although they had great skills, it was extremely unlikely for them to chase after Zhuotianzi underground. Qin Wushuang said to Bao Bao, Bao Bao, you specialize in traveling underground. Look around and see if that Zhuotianzi is hiding somewhere nearby. Bao Bao received the order and started to search. Soon, Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi arrived. Qin Wushuang went up to greet them. Just when these two were about to speak, they stopped when they saw Qin Wushuang's hand gesture. Qin Wushuang sent his voice. Teachers, that Zhuotianzi had escaped when he heard your voices. He is extremely cunning. I am worried that he is hiding in the dark and did not go far. Thus, I sent Bao Bao to search around. Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi nodded and also sent their voice, those 8 elders. I chased after them, but I only managed to catch up with 6 of them. The other 2 escaped very quickly. They had already passed the border of the Great Luo Empire and entered the Heavenly Lake Empire. When the 2 of us were about to chase after them, we found that there were soldiers lying in ambush on the roads of the Heavenly Lake Empire. They had blocked all the roads leading out of the Great Luo Empire. The second palace master and I were worried that there might be an ambush, so we didn't continue to chase after them. Qin Wushuang's heart sank. There's still an ambush at the border. And, if I'm not wrong, it's very likely that they're from the Archaic Mysteries sect. Qin Wushuang nodded. In these few days, Zhuotianzi was restrained by Lone. He felt extremely uncomfortable along the way and lost his mind. For this battle, the Stargaze Palace has won a complete victory. Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi were overjoyed as they nodded. While they were talking, suddenly Bao Bao crawled out from the ground and said excitedly, Boss Wushuang, your worries are unnecessary. Zhuotianzi fled without a trace, running forward. Now, he is at least a few hundred miles away. Overjoyed, Qin Wushuang nodded. Okay, Bao Bao alone, you two will have to work harder. Hide around the Red Cloud Mountain and observe for 3 to 5 days to prevent that Zhuotianzi from making a comeback. Once this guy does not give up and comes back, you two will immediately send out the signal. For a few hundred miles, the Stargaze Palace will sense you as long as you activate your spiritual qi. Bao Bao laughed. Okay, Senior Lone, what do you think? The purple flame electric beast twitched his mouth and yelled, I'm just afraid that guy won't come. It will be the best if he comes back. I still haven't had my fill. Wouldn't it be great if I could destroy a perfect stage? Bao Bao said with a smile. There will always be a chance in the future. You are the invincible Senior Lone. When Boss Wushuang attacks the Nine Palace faction, you could do whatever you want. The purple flame electric beast looked forward to it as he laughed. I really look forward to that day. Qin Wushuang said with a smile. There will always be a chance. After he had finished speaking, he said to Zhuo Buqian and Tan Zhongqi, 2 teachers, we have left the Stargaze Palace for a while. If we don't go back, I am afraid our colleagues will be worried. Zhuo Buqian nodded. The Nine Palace faction has been defeated. Let's go back now. However, Zhuotianzi would definitely not let the matter rest after his defeat. For now, the Stargaze Palace's crisis has been solved. However, we still have a long way to go. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang laughed. Head Palace Master, Teacher. This time, that Zhuotianzi had lost mysteriously. Zhuotianzi was very curious about my identity. He did not believe that the Stargaze Palace had the power to attack them. Most likely, his brain is a mess. Zhuo eyes lit up. Oh, could it be that when we killed Dao Haidang, they did not guess your identity when they saw you shoot the graceful spiritual bow? I also thought about it a moment ago. At that time, Zhao Heng, Gao Yu, and Zhu Dazhong were the ones who had seen the graceful spiritual bow. At that time, Zhao Heng and Zhu Dazhong were already dead, and Gao Yu was not there. Thus, they could not be sure about this matter. However, if Gao Yu had met up with those two elders who had escaped, they could have confirmed it. I only hope that this Zui Tianxi did not return to the archaic mystery sect, but went straight to the Nine Palace faction. When he said here, suddenly, Qin Wushuang's eyes moved and an idea emerged in his head. Head Palace Master, Teacher, didn't you guys say that there was an ambush at the border? Is it suspected to be the archaic mysteries sect? Let's go all out and kill our way to the Heavenly Lake Empire. We will settle that debt with interest. Immediately, this suggestion had received strong support from Bao Bao and the Purple Flame Electric Beast. After a moment of thinking, Zhuo Buchuan felt that this plan would work. He asked Tan Zhongqi, "Second, what do you think?" Tan Zhongqi said in a low voice, "It will work. However, for this matter, it is inappropriate for us to step out. Wu Shuang and his two friends must go." Zhuo Buchuan nodded. "Wu Shuang, are you confident?" Qin Wushuang said with a smile, "For sure. I will make the archaic mysteries sect pay with interest." Zhuo Buchuan revealed a determined expression as he revealed his lofty side as a palace master. "Wu Shuang, no need to show mercy when dealing with the archaic mysteries sect. We must let them know the price of betraying the Eastern interests and inviting the wolf into the house." Tan Zhongqi also nodded. The head palace master is right. If the archaic mysteries sect had lured the Nine Palace faction here, we would not have escaped this calamity. Thus, no need to show mercy to the archaic mysteries sect. Qin Wushuang nodded. "I understand. This was the relationship between countries in the Tianxian land. If you did not give me a way out, I would not give you a way out. Bao Bao alone. For sure, you guys would not be willing to wait here. You would be interested to come with me to the Heavenly Lake Empire, right?" Bao Bao laughed. "That's right. Who knows if they will come if we wait here? It would be more exciting to go to them." The Purple Flame Electric Beast cried out, "Let's go. Don't let those bastards escape." Qin Wushuang cupped his hands in a salute. "Head Palace Master, Teacher, you guys go back to the Stargaze Palace first. I will go meet those guys from the Archaic Mysteries sect." After he had finished speaking, he left quickly with the two spiritual beasts. To increase his speed, Qin Wushuang initiated the Wind Walk Talisman and rushed with all his strength. This time, the head palace master had given each of them a Wind Walk Talisman when they departed from the Stargaze Palace. Usually, the Wind Walk Talisman could only be used 3 times. He had used it once when he departed from the Stargaze Palace. He had used it again when he was rushing to the Red Cloud Mountain. Thus, for the last time, Qin Wushuang was not stingy as he initiated it and rushed towards the border. He had only used the Wind Walk Talisman he had acquired from the friendly competition between the 3 Eastern empires. For now, Qin Wushuang did not plan to use it again since it still had 2 more uses. When he arrived at the area of the cliff, Qin Wushuang slowed down his footsteps. With Bao Bao as the vanguard, Qin Wushuang's group had an easier time. After passing through the cliff, Bao Bao scuttled back and said to Qin Wushuang, "Boss Wushuang, the people of the Archaic Mysteries sect have already retreated." "Retreated?" Qin Wushuang frowned slightly. "Could it be that Zui Tianxi has already met up with them?" Bao Bao shook his head. "I don't know about that." "Bao Bao, use your fastest speed to catch up with the Archaic team. Eavesdrop on their movements, and whether they have already met up with Zui Tianxi." "Okay." Without hesitation, Bao Bao scuttled into the ground at a fast speed. Qin Wushuang and the Purple Flame Electric Beast did not slow down as they followed them. They rushed towards the imperial capital of the Heavenly Lake Empire. For sure, the Archaic Mysteries sect had retreated back to their headquarters. They should be able to make it if they rushed over now. After 1,000 miles, suddenly, Bao Bao scuttled out from the nearby trees and said excitedly, "Boss Wushuang, The main force of the Archaic Mysteries sect is rushing towards their headquarters. They are on the way. It seems that Zhuitianzi did not meet up with them and return to the Nine Palace faction directly. The heads of the Archaic Mysteries sect did not know the result of the battle with the Nine Palace faction. It seems that they only received the order to retreat. As a result, the sect masters were all suspicious of each other. They keep guessing. After Qin Wushuang heard his words, he was overjoyed inwardly. Okay, then let's give the Archaic a surprise. The battle with the Nine Palace faction was the best opportunity for the Stargaze Palace to rise. And the stage for the rise of the Stargaze Palace would not be anywhere else. For sure, it would be this vast eastern land. Qin Wushuang knew that defeating the Nine Palace faction was the Stargaze Palace's victory in self-defense. And destroying the Archaic Mysteries sect would be the beginning of the Stargaze Palace's domination of the East. Let the Archaic Mysteries sect become the stepping stone for the rise of the Stargaze Palace. Qin Wushuang had made up his mind. He took Bao Bao and the purple flame electric beast to chase after the Archaic team. Inside Qin Wushuang's mind, he already had a blueprint. This blueprint would ensure that the great Luo Empire would rise to become an upper-ranking empire among the human countries. From then on, they would not have to look at any other countries. Lone, this time you'll go first. Qin Wushuang laughed leisurely. For anyone from the Archaic Mysteries sect, regardless of their strength, as long as they are upper sky disciples, do not hold back. Hearing Qin Wushuang's instructions, the purple flame electric beast twitched his mouth. Boss, when have I ever held back? Haha, that's not my style. After he had finished speaking, he dashed forward and disappeared into the forest. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 360. In terms of killing power and brutality, the purple flame electric beast that had been suppressed for thousands of years was indeed stronger than the current Bao Bao. However, Bao Bao's agility and flexibility were also advantages that the purple flame electric beast did not possess. Each of the four heads of the Archaic Mysteries sect led a group of people and placed them on each road. They only retreated after receiving Gao Yu's order. Then, they regrouped and headed back to the Archaic headquarters. Although they did not know what had happened, they knew that it would not be something good since they had suddenly given the order to retreat. Cheng Qing Song, the fourth head, could not help but ask, Head, that Nine Palace faction is too childish. They asked us to set up ambushes at each road and then asked us to retreat. What is the meaning of this? Now, Gai was also full of anger. His head was full of questions and dark clouds. His instinct as an elite warrior told him that it should not be something good. However, not a single person from the Nine Palace faction had come to meet them. They only sent a retreat signal from afar and asked them to return to the Archaic headquarters to wait for news from the Nine Palace faction. Naturally, Gai was annoyed by the actions of the Nine Palace faction. However, besides obeying, there was nothing else he could do. Currently, the Archaic Mysteries sect was tied to the Nine Palace faction. Regardless of how he felt, this path was chosen by the Celestial Arcanum sect. On the other hand, by Gujing, the second head could not forget about the death of Devil Boy, as he said while gritting his teeth. Perhaps the Nine Palace faction has already taken down the Stargaze Palace. With the power of those elite warriors, it would be a piece of cake for them to take down the Stargaze Palace. And those 6 advanced stage spiritual beasts for the Nine Palace faction possessed extremely powerful killing power. Of course, they would not let any of them escape the net. This way, we would not need to set up these ambushes. Cheng Qing Song smiled bitterly. Second head, don't you think it's wishful thinking? Even if the Nine Palace faction is powerful, it would be difficult to say that none of them escaped. And the Stargaze Palace are not idiots. For sure, they have made some arrangements. Since they knew they could not beat them, perhaps they would break up and run away, leaving the Nine Palace empty-handed. Gao Yu waved his hand and stopped their discussion. Everyone, don't make random guesses. Logically, with the Nine Palace army at the border, the Stargaze would not be lucky. However, this withdrawal of troops was really weird. I am worried that the Nine Palace faction has encountered some setbacks. Gujing denied it immediately. Even if others don't know how many treasures the Stargaze Palace has, how can we not know? With the strength of the Stargaze Palace, how could they fight against the Nine Palace? Gao Yu sighed. Suddenly, his expression changed. Everyone, be careful. There are enemies invading. His ears twitched, and he immediately drew his weapon. He stood straight and shouted, "All disciples, shrink the circle and gather together." Sect Master. Gujing was halfway through his sentence when he suddenly felt a strong, murderous aura coming from all directions. What a strong, murderous aura! Holding their breaths, the four great sect masters were all on high alert. Suddenly, a cloud of mist rose up in front of him. The cloud of mist abruptly turned red. Behind this red cloud, a powerful aura suddenly pushed forward. Everyone, be careful! Before Gao Yu could finish his words, the red cloud suddenly seemed to be blown by the wind. With a whoosh, it rushed forward and actually condensed into a row of true fire, attacking directly. Gao Yu shouted, "This fire is not ordinary. Don't fight it." As he spoke, he jumped to the side. Almost at the same time, the purple flame electric beast had already arrived before him like a flash of lightning. With a claw, in the blink of an eye, he had arrived before them from 10 meters away. With a claw, he caught the fifth head of the archaic mysteries sect. Without the slightest hesitation, he tore him apart. With a crashing sound, the fifth head, an elite warrior at the advanced stage, did not have the slightest chance to resist as he was torn into two halves. This situation was as terrifying as it could get. The purple flame electric beast had gone berserk. After tearing one person apart, he lowered his body and roared twice. With a ferocious expression, like a ferocious tiger dashing into a flock of sheep, he grabbed at the air with his claws. Each time, he would catch a person of the archaic mysteries sect, and his movements were always simple and brutal. In a moment, the purple flame electric beast had torn 5 or 6 people apart. When Gao Yu saw the brutal actions of this purple flame electric beast, he knew that this beast was exceptional. Cold sweat emerged from his back. Everyone, don't linger, retreat. Retreat with full force. This time, the archaic mysteries sect had sent out all their main force, including all the heads, elders, wardens, and core disciples. There were more than 100 people. However, under the attack of the purple flame electric beast, these 100 elite warriors were like hundreds of sheep. They did not have the power to fight back and only appeared to be in a panic. With Gao Yu's call, these people of the archaic mysteries sect no longer cared to be reserved as they all started to run. They only hated that their parents did not have 2 more legs. When the purple flame electric beast saw the archaic mysteries sect running away, he roared to the sky and dashed forward. In one leap, he threw himself at Chung Ching Song, the third head of the archaic mysteries sect. After all, Chung Ching Song was at the advanced stage. Although he was running away with his back turned, he could feel the danger behind him. Without hesitation, he twisted his body and dived into the ground. The purple flame electric beast flew into a rage as he missed his target. He rolled his eyeballs and twitched the corner of his mouth into a faint smile. Suddenly, he raised his claws and slashed towards the ground like 2 sharp blades that could split the sky and earth. With a crashing sound, the purple flame electric beast had slashed out 2 deep gullies. After the purple flame electric beast had slashed open the crack, he jumped into the gully and propped himself up. Boom, boom. When the purple flame electric beast propped himself up, the ground had completely split into 2 sides. The gully on the ground became bigger, and the soil on both sides kept falling and loosening. The purple flame electric beast opened his mouth and spurted out another mouthful of genuine fire under the urging of the red light. Like a red Tyrannosaurus, this genuine fire drilled into the ground. The intensity of this genuine fire was incomparable to ordinary flames. As it dived down, instantly, it had roasted the entire ground as if it was boiling water. The soil under the ground also boiled and kept rushing upwards. These few moves were extremely fast. Before that Chung Ching Song could escape far, his entire body was almost twitching from the roasting of this genuine fire. However, he knew that he must not stop at this moment. Once he stopped, he would be burned to death. Instantly, he dashed forward with all his strength to get out of the attack range of this genuine fire. After a moment of sensing, the purple flame electric beast was flustered and exasperated. Of course, he sensed that although Chung Ching Song was struggling, he was still getting out of the attack range of the genuine fire step by step. Although the purple flame electric beast was powerful, he did not know how to travel underground. He could only stare helplessly as that Chung Ching Song walked further and further away. Darn it, this guy is rather crafty. Naturally, the purple flame electric beast was annoyed when he failed to attack and let him escape. While swearing, he raised his head to look forward. However, the other people had taken the chance to escape. Just when he was about to give chase, suddenly, a laugh came from behind him. "Senior Lone, it seems you have encountered some problems. Let me help you vent your anger." The one who spoke was Bao Bao. His body dashed and dived into the ground. The purple flame electric beast was not willing to fall behind. He was about to move and chase after him. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang said, "Lone, don't rush. Let them take a breather. This time, we're going to annihilate the archaic mysteries sect. Not only must we annihilate them, we must also show off our power and prestige. We cannot let them disappear without a trace." The purple flame electric beast was stunned. "Boss, I'm only in charge of tearing people apart. Why should we let them take a breather?" Qin Wushuang only smiled and did not speak. This was his strategy. Not only must they annihilate the archaic mysteries sect, they must make a great show of it and stir up the entire city. There was only one purpose for doing this, and that was to intimidate and demonstrate their power. To intimidate the East, to demonstrate their power to the Red Dragon Empire and the Nine Palace faction. With the annihilation of the archaic mysteries sect, there would be no obstacles for the Stargaze Palace to rule the East. The Dragon and Tiger sect would not have the right to speak. When the Nine Palace faction attacked the Stargaze Palace, the Dragon and Tiger sect did not come to help. It was already decided that the Stargaze Palace would no longer see the Dragon and Tiger sect as an ally. They would not treat them as politely as they did in the past. They would either submit or end up like the archaic mysteries sect. For sure, the rise of an upper-ranking empire would require the fall of other empires as stepping stones. And the Heavenly Lake Empire would be the most suitable stepping stone. The Vermilion Empire, where the Dragon and Tiger sect resided, could only submit. "Boss, are we letting them escape like this?" Qin Wushuang said with a smile. "They will not escape. The monk can escape, but the temple cannot." "What do you mean?" Of course, the purple flame electric beast could not understand the language of Qin Wushuang's former world. "It means that they can escape, but they cannot move the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect. Besides running back to the mountain gate, where else can they go? Besides, how could I let them escape back to the mountain gate so easily?" Suddenly, Qin Wushuang's expression froze. "Lone, I order you to rush to the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect at full speed. You must arrive before these people. Are you confident?" The purple flame electric beast said proudly, "With the speed of these useless people, it would be too easy for me to get there before them. Only, what would I do when I get there? Should I tear them apart?" "Don't tear them apart yet, to avoid alerting the enemy. It would not be too late for you to tear them apart when the main force of the archaic mysteries sect has returned to the mountain gate. Overall, you only have one mission, and that is to not let them escape through the mountain gate. You must stop them at the foot of the mountain path." "No problem, no problem." The purple flame electric beast was extremely confident as he roared, "Bao Bao, can you do it? If you can't, then get out." Before he had finished speaking, a burst of joyful laughter came from underground. "Senior Lone, do you think I am you? When I, Bao Bao, step out, it will be an easy task." Boom! Bao Bao dashed out of the ground and carried a person. It was Chung Ching Song. However, his chest had already been broken and his entire dantian had been sucked by Bao Bao. The purple flame electric beast spat a few times. Bao Bao, you are so cruel. You sucked his dantian. Bao Bao laughed. Senior Lone, it's all right if other people say it, but you seem to be more cruel than me. Bao Bao chuckled. It's good to suck his dantian. This way, I can awaken the bloodline of the ancient spiritual monkey and enter the void martial stage sooner. I won't talk nonsense with you. I will go carry out my mission first. In a flash, the purple flame electric beast transformed into a wave of light and dashed out hundreds of meters. P.S. Second update. 3 hours until 1800 hours. Many more votes. Put in more effort. Today I'm going to risk it all. Don't save me, haha. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. More chapters, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 361. Rain started to fall from the sky. Now it was summer. As soon as the rain came, it poured down like a torrential downpour. It was as if a giant hole had appeared in the Milky Way as the flood kept pouring down. Qin Wushuang walked in the heavy rain. His desire for revenge was not extinguished by the rain. On the contrary, it became even more fervent. In his mind, he kept replaying the battle at the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace. Normally, with Zhao Heng dead and Zhu Dazhong dead, he could have solved that grudge by killing Gao Yu. However, Qin Wushuang knew that having such thoughts meant being conservative and passive. In the Tianxian land, being passive meant being beaten. According to his experience, at any time, the passive party would always be in a state of being beaten. For example, when the Baiyu country was invaded by the Great Wu and the West Shu for no reason. For example, this time, the Great Luo Empire had also attracted the vicious wolf, the Nine Palace faction. In this world, it was not a world where if I don't offend people, they will not offend me. If people don't offend me, I will not offend them. If people offend me, I must retaliate with 10 times the power. Only by having a tough attitude could he fight for a clear and bright world. The principles of this world were not spoken with one's mouth, nor through condemnation and protest. They would fight with their fists and fight with their strength. Since the Nine Palace faction had the biggest fist, they did not need anyone's permission to attack the Stargaze Palace. Justice, principles, no one cared about these things, and no one dared to question them. It was because in the eyes of the world, the Nine Palace faction was powerful and the Stargaze Palace was tiny. It was natural for the strong to bully the weak. This was the principle that Qin Wushuang had realized. 3 days later, inside a mountain valley, Qin Wushuang and Bao Bao stood leisurely on one side of the valley. Below the valley, the main force of the archaic mysteries sect was there. In these 3 days, Qin Wushuang had launched a few sneak attacks. Together with Bao Bao, they had killed 12 people. After each kill, they did not linger and left. After a few hours, they would catch up and launch another sneak attack. As a result, the archaic mysteries sect suffered heavy casualties. After a few ambushes, only 40 to 50 people were left. Although Gao Yu and Bai Gujing were still around, the backbone of the archaic mysteries sect could be said to have lost 70 to 80% of them. At this time, the sky was still drizzling. Gao Yu coldly said, "Who are you, and what enmity do you have with my archaic mysteries sect? Aren't you afraid of harming the peace of the world with such a massacre?" Qin Wushuang said coldly, "Gao Yu, the archaic mysteries sect colluded with the Nine Palace faction and intended to rule the East. We had led the wolf into the house. Have you ever thought about harming the harmony of the world?" Gao Yu drew a breath of cold air. "You are for the Stargaze Palace?" Qin Wushuang leisurely smiled and said, "You don't need to know who I am. You only need to know that the 3 Eastern empires should be resolved internally. And your archaic mysteries sect is asking a tiger for its skin. By attracting the Nine Palace faction, you are digging your own grave. At this moment, I'm just enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens and making your archaic arcanum sect disappear from the eastern region. If the celestial arcanum sect is not eliminated, How can the Eastern Territory have a peaceful day? Gao Yu said angrily. Enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Who are you to claim to be enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Bao Bao laughed strangely. Old Gao, my boss, is an elite warrior from the Xian Yuan Mount. In the Tian Xian land, in the human countries, he is the heavens. Heavens? Gao Yu laughed coldly. It's easy for you to deal with my archaic mysteries sect. Would you dare to go to the tiger's den and fight with the Nine Palace faction? Who doesn't know how to pick a soft persimmon? Qin Wushuang laughed lightly and said with a trace of disdain on the corner of his mouth, Gao Yu, your provocation is not smart. When the Nine Palace faction attacked the Stargaze Palace, your archaic mysteries sect was in charge of setting up ambushes everywhere and killing the fish that escaped the net. This is a good wishful thinking. Only that Nine Palace faction was exaggerating and could not withstand a single blow. If I didn't destroy the Nine Palace faction, how could I have the time to play hide and seek with your archaic mysteries sect? Inwardly, Gao Yu was shocked as he exchanged a glance with Bai Gujing. Both of them were overwhelmed with shock. Apparently, they were stunned by this shocking news. For a time, they could not distinguish the truth. Bao Bao, tell them what we've been doing recently. Qin Wushuang said with a light smile. Okay, Bao Bao said with a smile. During this time, we first gathered the Nine Palace faction at the Cliff Road and killed 2 advanced stage elders. Then, we killed Zhao Heng and Dao Haidang in the deep forest. Then, we played hide and seek with Zhou Tianxi for a few days. Then, we killed the other 8 elders of the Nine Palace faction. That's probably the only thing. The muscles on Gao Yu's face twitched as fear and despair filled his eyes. Impossible. The Nine Palace faction is the strongest sect in the human countries. You guys cannot destroy the Nine Palace faction. Impossible. Bao Bao deliberately showed a helpless expression. Boss, Senior Gao doesn't seem to believe it. Qin Wushuang laughed. Just tell him, is it important whether he believes it or not? With a pale expression, Gao Yu exchanged a glance with Bai Gujing. Apparently, these two knew that this person was telling the truth. They glanced at each other. Suddenly, he twisted his body, and a wave of light spread out from his entire body. In a flash, the light engulfed the bodies of these two, and they disappeared from their original place. These 2 heads of the archaic mysteries sect had abandoned their fellow disciples at the most crucial moment and ran away. Bao Bao was furious, so shameless. Just when he was about to chase after them, Qin Wushuang said with a smile, let them go. Let's take care of the small fishes first, then we will catch these 2 big fishes. Bao Bao knew that Qin Wushuang had his own plans. He nodded and rubbed his palms. Boss, these people are all at the initial and middle stage. I don't have much appetite. How about I transform into the Gold Monkey King and wipe them all out? Qin Wushuang glanced around and said lightly, almost all the elite warriors of the archaic mysteries sect have died. These are all the inferior ones among the small fishes. Anyways, the heavens are virtuous. When he thought here, he glanced around coldly. The archaic mysteries sect destroyed their own future and led the wolf into the house. They should have killed all of them. However, the heavens are virtuous. You guys, destroy your own Dantian and disperse all your power. Then, I will spare your lives. Those people looked at each other in dismay. A few strong-willed people shouted arrogantly. Since the ancient times, the archaic mysteries sect has only died standing and never lived kneeling. You want us to destroy our own Dantian in your dreams. Everyone, let's run separately and see how many of us they can catch. Initially, the others were hesitant. However, upon hearing the roar of their friend, each of them had the same thought. Their blood boiled and the swift and fierce temperament in their bones flared up. All of them nodded. Everyone, run separately. For the archaic mysteries sect, we cannot give up easily. After they had finished, they gave a shout and ran in all directions. Bao Bao laughed coldly. Boss, they did not cherish the chance you gave them. What should we do? Qin Wushuang said. Do as you see fit. Bao Bao laughed. All right. There are 42 people in total. I will take responsibility if one is missing." As soon as his words had dropped, his body dashed down the valley at lightning speed. Each time he dashed with his little body, he would bite one to death, and their deaths were all as tragic as before. Their chests were broken and their dantian was destroyed. Naturally, the coverage of Bao Bao's perfect stage spiritual chi was extraordinary. Although each of these disciples of the archaic mystery sect were at the upper sky realm, there was too much difference between them and Bao Bao. Although they ran in all directions, under Bao Bao's perception, all their efforts appeared to be in vain. Bao Bao's few attacks had cost a dozen of people their lives. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang's body moved. He waved his hand and a wave of blood-red light filled the sky. It formed into a row of tragic attacks and rushed forward. This row of attacks carried an incomparable temperament. As it rushed forward, regardless of the trees or the mountain rocks, they were all shattered into powder. With a rumble, the 6 or 7 people who were fleeing in front were hit by the red light. It was as if they were swallowed by a raging demonic beast. In an instant, they were enveloped by the red light and were smashed into pieces. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. Bao Bao laughed. "Boss, such powerful attacks." Qin Wushuang smiled lightly. "Leave the south side to me. You can take care of the rest." Bao Bao laughed. "Alrighty." Currently, Qin Wushuang was holding a long whip. It was much longer and thicker than the snake-shaped soft whip. He shook it in the air, and like a long dragon, it appeared to be full of vitality. No wonder it's a weapon at the void martial stage. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was overjoyed. A moment ago, from such a far distance, if he had used the snake-shaped soft whip, he would not have been able to attack from such a far distance. And this fury dragon soul could unleash such powerful temperament with a casual whip. It had unleashed 10 times the power of Qin Wushuang's attack. Since Qin Wushuang's first attack was so successful, he had developed a strong interest in this fury dragon soul. In one leap, he chased after those 7 or 8 people who were running to the south. Now, to chase after these small fries, with Qin Wushuang's strength, of course, he did not need to use the graceful spiritual bow. Once again, he waved the fury dragon's soul 3 times and congealed it into 3 spiraling waves of qi. Like 3 tornadoes, it chased after them rapidly. As soon as this spiraling mass of qi rotated in the air, it expanded 10 times and rolled forward at a high speed. It was as thick as 10 buckets. Using a weapon at the void martial stage to deal with a few initial and middle stage martial artists was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. Clean and efficient, the 3 spiraling masses of qi rolled all the fleeing archaic disciples inside. That red mass of qi was like a giant millstone that was spinning at a fast speed. With only one grinding motion, it had broken the bones of those archaic disciples and sent their flesh and blood flying everywhere. Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh. He was already used to such slaughter. It was not because he enjoyed killing, but because he knew the principle of nurturing a tiger would only invite calamity. On the other side, Bao Bao also unleashed his power and chased after them. In a moment, he had killed most of those people. At the same time, he called out, "Boss, I'm going to chase to the north. There are still 6 fish that escaped the net. You can follow me later." Qin Wushuang initiated his spiritual perception with all his power and scanned a few times to make sure that no fish had escaped the net. Then he quickly followed him. The power of the Fury Dragon Soul had surprised Qin Wushuang greatly. Indeed, a weapon at the Void Martial stage was not something a warrior at the Spiritual Martial Force could imagine. Compared to his snake-shaped soft whip from before, the power of this Fury Dragon Soul was more than 10 times stronger. Thinking back to the battle at the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace, if he had this Fury Dragon Soul, combined with his current advanced stage strength, most likely he would be able to fight against Zhao Heng even without the graceful spiritual bow. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang felt even more proud. Zhuotianzi, even if you have someone to rely on in the Xian Yuan Mound, if you still want to target the Stargaze Palace, I, Qin Wushuang, will take your life one day. Now, Qin Wushuang had completely thrown away all his worries. So what if it was a Xianyuan mount? Zhou Tianci was only at the perfect stage. Even if he had some relatives in the Xianyuan mound, it would not change the fact that he did not have any position in the Xianyuan mound. Or else, why would he stay in the human countries? To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 362. Following a few painful cries, Qin Wushuang knew that Bao Bao had succeeded again. Indeed, Bao Bao shouted from afar, "Boss, how many did you kill?" Qin Wushuang laughed. "In total, I killed 15 in 2 rounds of attacks." Bao Bao laughed. "I don't count well. I think it was 27. How much is it?" 42 exactly. Bao Bao was overjoyed. Then it should be right. He gathered with Bao Bao, and Bao Bao laughed. "Boss, where are we going next?" "To the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect," Qin Wushuang said with a determined tone. In the end, the news of the massacre that had happened inside the Heavenly Lake Empire had spread out to all the small and medium-sized countries in the east. As if the news had grown legs, it kept spreading. Although no one knew which evil star the archaic mysteries sect had offended to cause such a tragedy. However, everyone knew that the archaic mysteries sect had brought this disaster upon themselves. In the east, besides the 3 middle-ranking empires, there were a few lower-ranking empires, many free countries, and subordinate countries. These countries all had their own information and knew the ins and outs of this matter. The archaic mysteries sect had led the wolf into their house and lured the 9 Palace faction. A year ago, Zhao Heng, the vice leader of the 9 Palace faction, had brought the 2 heads of the archaic mysteries sect to kill their way to the mountain gate. They had injured Tan Zhongqi. Although the Stargaze Palace had not announced Tan Zhongqi's death, the outside world speculated that he had died. Although the eastern countries did not agree with what the archaic mystery sect had done, they did not dare to get involved in this matter. Regardless of the archaic mysteries sect or the 9 Palace faction, they could not offend them. And this time, the 9 Palace faction had come with a ferocious momentum. They had invaded the east and targeted the Stargaze Palace. Everyone in the eastern countries also felt threatened. Yet, no one came to help, including the Dragon and Tiger sect, which was on par with the Stargaze Palace. They all held the attitude of defending their home. And now, when the archaic mysteries sect had encountered such a tragedy, of course, they could not feel any sympathy. On the contrary, they could only take joy in their misfortune and hit them when they were down. Only, while taking joy in their misfortune, they could not help but think, in the end, which powerhouse had slaughtered all the elite disciples of the archaic mysteries sect. This strength is truly terrifying. For your information, the archaic mysteries sect was one of the 3 strongest powerhouses in the 3 eastern empires. They had been on par with the Stargaze Palace and the Dragon and Tiger sect for thousands of years. Could it be that after the 9 Palace succeeded in attacking the Stargaze Palace, they turned around and destroyed the archaic mysteries sect along the way? At this time, the eastern countries were gathering information everywhere. This was especially so for Dragon Tiger sect. They were deeply uneasy. At this moment, in the Great Hall of the Dragon and Tiger sect, the 5 sect leaders of the Dragon and Tiger sect had all gathered and were nervously discussing the recent changes in the situation. There were 3 leaders in the Dragon sect. They were the Supreme Dragon Head, the Second Dragon Head, and the Third Dragon Head. There were 2 leaders of the Tiger sect, the First Tiger Venerable and the Second Tiger Venerable. Supreme Chief Shi Chenglong's expression was solemn as he read through the reports in a daze. After a long while, he put down the reports and said with a heavy tone, "Everyone, the situation in the east is getting more and more chaotic. Supreme Dragon Head, is there any information from the Great Luo Empire?" Shi Chenglong said with a bitter smile. "There is no news at all. Up to this point, it's still a mystery whether the 9 Palace has entered the Stargaze Palace or not. According to the information, there are no strong movements from a great battle around the Stargaze Palace. Perhaps The Nine Palace did not even launch their attack. The second dragon head's expression was full of disbelief. Impossible. It's been a long time since the Nine Palace arrived at the Archaic Mysteries sect. With their style, it's impossible for them to not launch an attack. Could it be that they are plotting something? Shi Chenglong gave a long sigh. That's why I said that the situation is getting more and more complicated. However, the first Tiger Venerable said, "Head Dragon, then you said that the Archaic Mysteries sect was attacked. What is going on?" Shi Chenglong said, "The information only shows that the Archaic Mysteries sect suffered heavy casualties. As for who attacked them and which powerhouse attacked them, we still have no clue. However, we are certain that almost all the elite warriors of the Archaic Mysteries sect have been killed. Even the bodies of the 4th sect master and the 5th sect master were found. Besides Gao Yu and Bai Gujing, almost all the elite warriors of the Archaic Mysteries sect had died. Although the entire Dragon and Tiger sect hated the Archaic Mysteries sect and despised their actions of inviting the wolf into their home, they could not feel any joy when the Archaic Mysteries sect, a major sect that had fought with them for thousands of years, suffered such a calamity all of a sudden. On the contrary, they felt sad for the death of the rabbit. It was not because they had any feelings for the Archaic Mysteries sect. Instead, they felt that since the Archaic Mysteries sect had been destroyed so easily, then would the Dragon and Tiger sect also be as vulnerable as them. This fear of the unknown powerhouse made them unable to feel any joy. Suddenly, the third dragon head spoke. "Head Dragon, normally, since the Archaic Mysteries sect had attracted the Nine Palace, it would make sense if the news of the destruction of the Stargaze Palace had spread. However, how come the Archaic Mysteries sect was destroyed? Say, could it be that the Stargaze Palace is behind all of this? The Stargaze Palace is the one that colluded with the Nine Palace." When this shocking theory came out, the other 4 were all shocked. That can't be right. If that's the case, how could Zhao Hong have killed Tan Zhongqi? Isn't it still uncertain whether Tan Zhongqi is dead or not? Besides, since it's a strategy, of course, we must put on a good show. Or else, how could it work? The more that third dragon head thought about it, the more suspicious he felt it was. Third dragon head, although Zhuo Buqian is a smart person, he still has some principles. Of course, he would not collude with the Nine Palace. Besides, the Stargaze Palace has the most spots to explore the endless Eastern Sea. There is no reason for them to borrow the power of the Nine Palace. Shi Chenglong gave a long sigh. "Head Dragon, you may know a person's face, but not his heart. Sometimes, the more impossible it seems, the more likely it is." The third dragon head insisted on his conspiracy theory. Shi Chenglong gave a long sigh. "Let's not be overly suspicious. You 4 stay here and guard the sect. I've decided to go to the Stargaze Palace to see what's going on." "Head Dragon, how can we do that? At this time, the situation is dangerous. If you go now, wouldn't you be walking into a trap if you bump into the Nine Palace?" The head tiger was the first to object. Shi Chenglong said with determination, "The current situation requires us to take the initiative to deal with it. If we sit here and wait for the news, what if the Nine Palace comes with their troops? How can the Dragon and Tiger sect deal with it?" Everyone knew that the head dragon had made up his mind when they saw his determination. They could only say, "Head Dragon, then you must be careful." Shi Chenglong said, "I will be careful and will not expose my identity. If the war starts, I will come back quietly and make some arrangements. If it doesn't, I will see the situation and decide whether to visit the Stargaze Palace." "That's good. Head Dragon, have a safe trip. Have a safe trip." Before the mountain gate of the Archaic Mysteries sect, Gao Yu and Bai Gujing walked out from the deep forest in a panic. They looked at each other with shame. Finally, they had arrived before the mountain gate. As long as they arrived at the mountain gate, everything would take a turn for the better. Inside the mountain gate of the Archaic Mysteries sect, there was an archaic formation. Once it was activated, unless it was an elite warrior at the Void Martial stage, no one would be able to break it. Although this time, the Archaic Mysteries sect had suffered great losses, as long as the foundation of the sect was not broken, as long as they still had their inheritance, they would have a chance to rise again. Second, we must not mention this defeat when we return to the sect. It's not a glorious thing for the two of us to abandon our sect. Bai Gujing smiled bitterly. Boss am I, Bai Gujing, someone who does not understand the ways of the world? I am just depressed. Who is that guy that could control two spiritual beasts at the perfect stage? Gao Yu's tone was full of frustration. It doesn't matter who they are. The Nine Palace had suffered a complete defeat. What can the archaic mysteries sect do? Bai Gujing exclaimed. I was thinking that the Stargaze Palace would not have such devilish power. Gao Yu said with hatred. The Stargaze Palace. All the disasters started because of them. I would not believe that the Stargaze Palace has such power. This time, it was very likely that many unknown forces were involved in this matter. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame that Nine Palace for being too high profile. If we had acted according to our plan, how could today's result have occurred? For sure, the Nine Palace's imposing manner had caused the dissatisfaction of other powerhouses. That's why this disaster had occurred. According to the archaic mysteries sect's plan, they only wanted the Nine Palace to help them acquire the exploration rights to the endless Eastern Sea. Then, they would share half of it with the Nine Palace. Unexpectedly, the Nine Palace's appetite kept growing. In the end, they could not suppress their ambition and tried to invade the entire East to become the #1 powerhouse in the human countries. Unfortunately, after all their scheming, they still failed at the final step. These two ran at full speed, and in the blink of an eye, they had arrived at the mountain path before the mountain gate. Just when they were about to walk up, suddenly, Gao Yu stopped, and his expression became extremely gloomy, as if he had suddenly aged 10 years. He looked up and saw that on the mountain path, a giant spiritual beast was lying lazily on the mountain path before the mountain gate. With a strange expression, it sized them up with a faint smile. That expression was clearly the mischievous and mocking expression of a prey that had delivered itself to its door. It's him. How could Bai Gujing not remember that this vicious beast was their nightmare? It was the beast that had torn the fifth head into half. Gao Yu smiled bitterly. I was wondering why he was not in those sneak attacks. He had been waiting for a long time before our mountain gate. A trace of viciousness flashed across Bai Gujing's eyes. The mountain gate is right before us. Let's go. As long as we make it through and enter the mountain gate, we will have the final say. Gao Yu felt helpless. How could he not know the benefits of entering the mountain gate? However, with the strength of this vicious beast, even if the two of them worked together, they might not be able to pass this obstacle. This mountain path was narrow and easy to defend. To them, the situation was extremely dangerous. Don't fight with force. Let's retreat. Even if we have to take a detour and enter from the back mountain, it's better than fighting with this vicious beast head-on. Gao Yu instructed calmly. Inwardly, Bai Gujing was shocked. Then he understood and nodded. Let's go. These two turned around and dashed down the stone steps of the mountain path. The purple flame electric beast laughed. Where are you guys going? I am not chasing you guys. Why are you running so fast? He had learned the human language from Bao Bao. Bao Bao's human language was half-baked. One could imagine how awkward it would be for the purple flame electric beast to speak the human language. Inwardly, Gao Yu and Bai Gujing cursed. This vicious beast knew the human language. Just as they were running, they heard a cold laugh ahead of them. At the foot of the mountain path, a man and a beast suddenly appeared, blocking their path, completely blocking their path back and forth. Of course, this person was Qin Wushuang. He had brought Bao Bao to cut off Gao Yu's escape route. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 363. With a somewhat mischievous tone, Qin Wushuang laughed. Head Gao, how come you're not going in after reaching the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect? Don't tell me that you guys are not going in after passing the gate 3 times? With an ashen face, Gao Yu exchanged a glance with Bai Gujing. He knew that today's matter was extremely dangerous. If they could not break through this encirclement, Most likely these two would die before the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect. Once these two died, no one would have the power to activate the mountain protection formation of the archaic mysteries sect. There would only be one fate waiting for the archaic mysteries sect: total annihilation. Gao Yu was determined as he glanced at the cliff below the mountain path. He knew that regardless of the top or bottom, with their power, it would be difficult to break through any obstacle. Once the enemy closed in on them, they would not even have a chance to escape. Boss! Suddenly, Bai Gujing's tone became much deeper. There are wolves in front and tigers behind. Our chance of survival lies below this cliff. Only one of us can live. You escape from the cliff, I will cover you. Inwardly, Gao Yu was shocked as he looked at Bai Gujing with a complicated gaze. On Bai Gujing's skinny face, his deep eyes carried a wave of determination as if he was facing death. I have made up my mind. I will live and die for the archaic mysteries sect. After Devil Boy's death, no one will be able to inherit my bloodline. I only hope you can persevere and not let me down. No matter what, the archaic mysteries sect must not fall. Never. Gao Yu nodded as a warm current surged in his heart. He said emotionally, "Second, once I enter the mountain gate, I will immediately activate the mountain protection formation. Then, I will rush to the Nine Palace faction and take Gui Yun away. That child, Gui Yun, is the future hope of the archaic mysteries sect." Bai Gujing nodded. "Okay, I will count to 3. You will jump down the cliff to escape. I will immediately activate the sky ghost mystifying technique. As long as I can hold them back for a few breaths, you can escape with ease." Gao Yu's tiger eyes were filled with tears. "Second, you and I will part today. If we meet again in the underworld, we will not let down the ancestors of the archaic mysteries sect." The instant they whispered, Qin Wushuang started to think. He said to Bao Bao, "Bao Bao, if I've guessed correctly, for sure they will jump down from this cliff to fight for a slim chance of survival. You know what to do, right?" There was a trace of pride in Bao Bao's tone. "You are seeking death by competing with me in climbing the cliff. Okay, you'll be in charge of the cliff when the time comes. You don't have to worry about anything happening on the mountain path," Qin Wushuang ordered. Bai Gujing shouted and suddenly waved the magic staff in his hand. A dark cloud came out of the magic staff. Suddenly, the surrounding area was filled with dark clouds and fog. All kinds of strange noises suddenly came out from the fog. They sounded like mournful howls and ghostly cries. For a moment, the entire mountain path seemed to darken. As the chilly wind blew, all kinds of illusory, ghostly shadows appeared in the air, bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws. They kept spilling out and spreading to both sides of the mountain path. Qin Wushuang focused his gaze and felt strange inwardly. What kind of demonic technique is this? From his knowledge of this world, there were only different kinds of powerful martial techniques. It seemed that there were no such demonic techniques. Naturally, he felt somewhat curious when he saw Bai Gujing's technique. He shouted in a low voice, "Bao Bao, don't get distracted." Bao Bao jumped down the cliff and gave a long laugh in the air. "Boss, it's as you expected." Qin Wushuang made up his mind and waved the Fury Dragon Soul whip from his hand. Instantly, the blood-red light shot out and rolled toward that chilly wind. As the shadow of the whip swung, it was as if the giant hand of the blue sky had pushed away 3 or 4 parts of this chilly wind. Qin Wushuang rushed forward, and the long whip in his hand had already arrived before Bai Gujing. Bai Gujing laughed nastily. "I'm going to fight it out with you." While he was talking, this Bai Gujing did not dodge. Instead, his body turned into a blurry shadow. He rolled up his magic staff and smashed it toward that whip shadow. Qin Wushuang shouted coldly, "You're overestimating yourself." Bai Gujing withdrew his blurry shadow. In the next moment, the magic staff flew out of his hand and dissipated in the wind. It turned into 10,000 white bones and shot toward Qin Wushuang like sharp battle blades. This came out of the blue, and it was extremely sudden. Qin Wushuang rolled the Fury Dragon Soul whip in front of his chest and made 3 circles to create layers of defensive spiritual power. The defensive circle continued to expand, and like a bloody mouth, it swallowed all the bones. Although those white bones came at a fast speed, as soon as they entered this defensive circle, it was like an icicle entering a furnace. Instantly, they melted and scattered into ashes and powder. Bai Gujing was shocked. With a leap, he jumped down the cliff. Qin Wushuang shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" The Fury Dragon Soul Whip stretched out. The 30 feet long Fury Dragon Soul Whip instantly became 10 times bigger. Like a long python, it wrapped around Bai Gujing's small body. Qin Wushuang took advantage of the momentum and smashed the Fury Dragon Soul Whip into the left side of the mountain. With a rumble, the mountain wall was smashed into a deep ravine, forming a huge hole. Bai Gujing was spurting out blood. He had no room to resist. Qin Wushuang urged his true power. The power of the Deep North had already passed through the Fury Dragon Soul Whip and entered Bai Gujing's body. Bai Gujing only felt as if his dantian was suddenly bitten by a mosquito. Immediately after, he felt an electric shock. All the spiritual power in his body was leaking out at high speed. Bai Gujing was scared out of his wits and cried out in pain. Sec Master Bai, that day, I used this method to kill Zhu Dazhong. Now, I'm using the same method to deal with you. It's just to let you reunite with your fellow sect members. Also, by the way, your disciple Devil Boy was also killed by me. Qin Wushuang's voice sounded leisurely. However, his words almost made Bai Gujing faint. He mumbled, "Who are you? You want to know?" Qin Wushuang asked with a cold smile. "If I don't know who you are, I will not die in peace." Bai Gujing exclaimed. Qin Wushuang nodded and tightened the Fury Dragon Soul Whip to wrap around Bai Gujing's entire body. He could not speak even if he wanted to. Then, he said in a low voice, "Listen well, I am Qin Wushuang from the Stargaze Palace." Suddenly, Bai Gujing's sunken eyes popped out like a dead fish. His throat kept trembling as he wanted to make a sound. However, he could not make a single sound. A pair of withered and skinny arms waved in despair. Slowly, without a sound, Qin Wushuang rolled up Bai Gujing's body and threw it down the cliff. He gave a long sigh. "Since you are a Grandmaster, it's a good place to die under the cliff of the Archaic Mysteries sect." At this moment, Bao Bao gave a long whistle and climbed up from the bottom of the cliff. He said with a joyful voice, "Boss, this guy really knows how to escape. He made me waste a lot of time." Bao Bao carried Gao Yu in his hand. This time, Bao Bao did not suck Gao Yu's dantian. Instead, he caught a living person and brought him before Qin Wushuang. He knew that this person was the head of the Archaic Mysteries sect. He must listen to his boss on how to deal with him. Qin Wushuang glanced at Gao Yu coldly. "Head Gao, what does it feel?" Gao Yu's face was ashen. "Be straightforward. Kill me." Qin Wushuang laughed leisurely. "Kill you? That will happen sooner or later. However, before that, I want you to see how I am going to destroy your Archaic Mysteries sect." Then he said to Bao Bao and the purple flame electric beast, "Let's go." Gao Yu roared in despair. "What grudge do you have with my Archaic Mysteries sect? You killed my people and want to destroy my sect? Grudge?" Qin Wushuang kept sneering. "Your Archaic Mysteries sect colluded with the Nine Palace faction and invaded the Stargaze Palace. That is a blood feud. Gao Yu, when you and Zhao Hong came to the Stargaze Palace to cause trouble, did you ever think that today would come? When you helped the Nine Palace faction build a bridge to attack the Stargaze Palace, did you ever think that today would come?" Gao Yu's expression changed drastically as his pupils shrank rapidly. "Who are you?" Qin Wushuang sealed Gao Yu's mute acupoint. "Who am I? I am Qin Wushuang from the Stargaze Palace." As if he had been struck by lightning, Gao Yu opened his mouth and could not speak a word. He looked at Qin Wushuang in panic, and his eyes were filled with fear and despair. Qin Wushuang, Stargaze Palace? Inwardly, Gao Yu had countless questions. How was it possible? When did the Stargaze Palace become this enchanting? Although this Qin Wushuang had good strength at the friendly competition, he was only at the middle stage. How did he manage to tame two spiritual beasts at the perfect stage? How did he defeat all those elite warriors from the Nine Palace faction. The purple flame electric beast roared and was the first one to rush to the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect. Qin Wushuang wrapped Gao Yu with the fury dragon soul and dragged him behind him as if he was dragging a dead dog. He started to chant with all his genuine qi. All disciples of the archaic mysteries sect, listen well. All 5 heads of the archaic mysteries sect have died. All of your elite warriors have been annihilated. Today, I have come to the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect to destroy your mountain gate. Anyone who resists will be killed. Those who are willing to drag out an ignoble existence, gather at the square before the mountain gate in 10 breaths. Destroy your own Dantian, and you will be spared from death. Or else, when a mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect is destroyed, it will be the time of your death. From Qin Wushuang's tone, there was not a trace of humanity. When dealing with enemies, Qin Wushuang only had one principle, and that was to be ruthless to the end. To forgive the enemy was to abuse himself. Of course, Qin Wushuang understood this principle since he had suffered such a loss once. I will say it again, in 10 breaths, those who have not arrived at the square before the mountain gate will be killed. Again, Qin Wushuang shouted with an indifferent tone, "You too, get ready to destroy their mountain gate." When Gao Yu heard these words, his entire body twitched, and he howled in grief inwardly. Was the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect going to be destroyed? Was the archaic mysteries sect that had been passed down for thousands of years going to face a calamity today? Now, Gao Yu was so regretful that even his intestines had turned green. Now, he knew that he had only himself to blame for all of this disaster. If he had not lured the Nine Palace faction here, even if the Stargaze Palace had risen and dominated the East, they would not have destroyed the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect and destroyed their legacy. The first breath, the second breath, Qin Wushuang counted lightly with an indifferent tone. Inside the archaic mysteries sect, it was already a mess. Like ants on a hot pan, they had no clue what to do. Besides being in a panic, they had no sense of propriety. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 364. Before 10 breaths had passed, each of the remaining disciples of the archaic mysteries sect had arrived before the square of the mountain gate. Each of them looked at the man and 2 beasts standing on the high ground before the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect. With just one look, they did not dare to look down on them. Qin Wushuang raised the fury dragon soul and displayed Gao Yu's body before all the disciples of the archaic mysteries sect. Open your eyes and look. This person is Gao Yu, the head of the archaic mysteries sect. He colluded with the Nine Palace and led the wolf into the house. Today, I will let him see with his own eyes how I destroy the archaic mysteries sect. Lone, Qin Wushuang shouted in a low voice. Here, the purple flame electric beast walked up eagerly. Don't you like to tear things down? I will let you tear down all the big and small palaces of the archaic mysteries sect. You decide whether to burn them down or tear them down. The purple flame electric beast was overjoyed as the wildness in his eyes increased dramatically. Roger, Bao said gloomily. Boss, I don't get a share. You just watch from the side. If anyone from the Celestial Arcanum sect dares to make a move, kill that person. Bao laughed. That's more like it. Move. Qin Wushuang's tone did not carry a trace of humanity. When the purple flame electric beast received the order, he let out a loud roar, causing the entire mountain to tremble. His body transformed into a flash of lightning and dashed before the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect. Like a cannonball, his body crashed forward. For spiritual beasts at the perfect stage, the power of their corporeal body was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Instantly, half of the front palace of the archaic mysteries sect had collapsed. Using the same method, the purple flame electric beast crashed again and caused the entire front palace to collapse. After it had collapsed, The purple flame electric beast opened his mouth and spat out waves of genuine fire to ignite the ruins of the front palace. Then, the purple flame electric beast continued to bombard the surroundings of the main palace. Every time it attacked, the faces of the celestial arcanum sect disciples dimmed. Gao Yu's face was even more ashen as he closed his eyes in despair. He wanted to curse, but he didn't even have the ability to open his mouth. As for the experts of the Tianji sect, almost all of them had followed Gao Yu to battle. Therefore, although there were some Xiantian disciples among the disciples who remained in the Tianji sect, they were all ordinary disciples who had not entered the ranks of the core disciples. Therefore, their sense of belonging to the Tianji sect was naturally not as strong as the core disciples. Although they were grieving inwardly under Bao Bao's covetous gaze, how could they dare to make any abnormal movements? Other than the main palace, all the other palaces had been completely destroyed by the purple flame electric beast. The purple flame electric beast also knew that the main palace must have a sturdy structure. It would take some time to destroy it. Therefore, it chose to finish off the easy ones first before preparing to destroy the main hall. Qin Wushuang suddenly said, "Wait." He threw Gao Yu's body and said to Bao Bao, "Catch him." Bao Bao caught him, and Qin Wushuang scuttled to the front of the main palace in a few leaps. He said with a smile, "Let me." The purple flame electric beast stepped aside. "Okay." Qin Wushuang gathered his temperament and jumped suddenly. Like a giant bird soaring into the sky, he opened his arms and stretched them out. He waved the Fury Dragon's soul whip from his hand. Instantly, as if the Fury Dragon's soul had awakened, a wave of dark red spiritual chi attached to the tip of the whip struck down. Like a rainbow, a wave of light slashed down from the middle like a light blade. This slash carried the temperament of a landslide. Boom! Under this attack, the attacking power of a weapon at the Void Martial stage was undoubtedly revealed. Under this attack, that impregnable main palace started to shake. Then, spiderweb-like cracks began to appear on the surrounding walls, spreading out continuously. Qin Wushuang's attack was effective, and he followed it up with two more. Boom, boom. Debris flew from the roof of the main palace, and the walls had started to sink. "I'll leave the rest to you." Qin Wushuang smiled lightly and flew back. "Alrighty." The purple flame electric beast grinned and attacked again. He spat out a row of genuine fire each time he changed directions. Initially, inside and outside the main palace, there were different types of spiritual chi defense that could defend against the fire. However, Qin Wushuang's 3 whip attacks were attacks from a weapon at the Void Martial stage. After the 3 whip attacks, all the spiritual chi defense was destroyed and shattered into pieces. Thus, when the purple flame electric beast's genuine fire burned, it was as if he had ignited dry wood. Whoosh! The fire soared to the sky, and instantly, the main palace turned into a sea of fire. Before Qin Wushuang flew back to the mountain gate, he said coldly, "The inheritance of the archaic mysteries sect will cease to exist. If you want to live, destroy your Dantian immediately. You will live. Or else, you will be buried with the mountain gate of the archaic mysteries sect." Currently, there were thousands of disciples of the Archaic Mysteries sect gathered around this square. Although most of them were initial stage disciples, they still had some sense of belonging and identity to the sect. Now, when they saw the destruction of the sect, each of them shed tears like rain. Some righteous people stood out and shouted, "The foundation of the Archaic Mysteries sect has been destroyed, but our spirit will not perish." Today, the mountain gate has been destroyed. Besides being buried with the sect, I have no other choice. Those who are not afraid of death, live and die with the sect. Those who are afraid of death, destroy your Dantian and drag out an ignoble existence. After these people had finished speaking, they lifted their bodies and dashed into the fire without hesitation. How could this genuine fire be ordinary? These disciples did not have high strength. As soon as they dashed in, they were like wax figures and were instantly burned until not even their bones were left. My body can die, but my spirit will not. I am also willing to be buried with the sect. I will also not drag out an ignoble existence. Disciples of the archaic mysteries sect continuously stood out and threw themselves into the blazing fire. Although Qin Wushuang was deeply moved inwardly, he did not stop them. He knew that such righteous people were the loyal followers of the archaic mysteries sect. If such people were to be let go, there would be more trouble in the future. Naturally, Bao Bao and the purple flame electric beast would not have any compassion. They stood on the side and sneered as they watched the archaic mysteries sect. Qin Wushuang looked at Gao Yu and said lightly, "Head Gao, you have only yourself to blame for everything that has happened to you. If you had won this scheme, I am afraid we would be the ones to be destroyed. And if you had lost, this is the result of you having asked for mercy. I do not want to humiliate you because you are the head of a generation. If you are willing to throw yourself into the blazing fire and be buried with the sect, I can fulfill your wish." Gao Yu's heart was like dead ashes as he nodded. His expression clearly said, "You win." Qin Wushuang said, "Okay, Lone, throw head Gao into the fire and refine his body with the genuine fire. The winner takes all. This is the most ideal ending for him." The purple flame electric beast twitched his mouth into a smile. "Deal. It's such a pity to burn him to death. It's better to let Bao Bao swallow him, haha." However, he knew that Qin Wushuang did this because he did not want to humiliate this head Gao Yu. Instantly, he grabbed Gao Yu's body and threw him into that endless sea of fire. Gao Yu's entire body was restrained and thrown into the sea of fire. As soon as the fire engulfed his body, it started to burn fiercely. In a moment, the fire soared to the sky and swallowed Gao Yu's body completely. Qin Wushuang said with a calm expression, "Head Gao, rest in peace. From now on, the chaos in the Tianxian land will have nothing to do with your archaic mysteries sect." Another 100 disciples of the archaic mysteries sect stood out mournfully and threw themselves into the fire to be buried with their head. For the remaining ones, no one else stood out. Qin Wushuang nodded. "It's still 10 breaths. Destroy your own Dantian. From now on, the grudge between me and the archaic mysteries sect will disappear. If you hesitate, please enter that sea of fire. I will not go back on my words." In fact, none of these disciples were upper sky realm warriors. However, Qin Wushuang was still cautious and would not allow anyone to become a threat in the future. After 10 breaths, all the disciples had destroyed their own Dantian. As the fire gradually died down, the entire archaic mysteries sect had become a piece of scorched earth. And those disciples who had destroyed their own Dantian all ran down the mountain and disappeared without a trace, as if they were afraid that Qin Wushuang would return. Qin Wushuang sighed. From now on, the name of the archaic mysteries sect will disappear from the east. Soon, the news reached the 9 Palace faction. When Zhuo Tianxi received the news, his lips trembled as he felt extremely defeated. As for the 2 elders who managed to escape, they shut themselves in their rooms and refused to come out. "I am Zhuo Tianxi. I would like to see Brother Luo." Outside a secret room in the Lotus Flower Palace of the 9 Palace faction, Zhuo Tianxi said with a humble tone. This was the 9th time he had asked to see Luo Yun. Ever since he had been defeated and returned to the 9 Palace faction, Luo Yun had been in seclusion. No matter how many times he had asked, Luo Yun had ignored him. Zhuo Tianxi was the general of a defeated army, and his strength was not as good as Luo Yun's. Thus, although he had been humiliated, he did not dare to show any anger and still spoke carefully. This time, he did not have much hope. He was an ambitious person, but after experiencing the defeat of the great Luo Empire, he was helpless and did not know what to do. Thus, he wanted to ask Luo Yun for advice. Finally, the door of the secret room slowly opened. Luo Yun walked out with an indifferent expression and said with a mocking tone, "Brother Tianxi, is this the strength of the 9 Palace faction? You don't even know who did this to you, and you're all defeated?" So Tianxi blushed with shame. "Brother Luo, this time we have been schemed against." "Schemed against by who?" Luo Yun asked sarcastically. Zhuo could not say anything, but he could only mumble, "Most likely, it is the power of the 9 Raven Temple. Besides them, there is no other powerhouse in the human countries that could make the 9 Palace suffer like this." Luo Yin took a deep breath and asked coldly, "Zhuo, it seems that you still don't know enough about the matters of the Tianxian land. Even in the human countries, the sects from the 2 upper-ranking empires may not be the only ones that can defeat the 9 Palace. You only suspect the 9 Raven Temple. Have you ever thought that the Stargaze Palace is the biggest suspect?" Zhuo mumbled, "Stargaze Palace. I have investigated the strength of the Stargaze Palace from many sources. I should not have made any mistakes. There is no reason for them to have done it. From my estimation, there were at least 2 or 3 perfect stage humans and 2 perfect stage spiritual beasts that had attacked us." Luo Yun gave a long sigh. In fact, people of the 9 Raven Temple had always been inside the temple, and the people of the Sky Travel Empire had not made a move. Both great empires were under my surveillance. If they had elite warriors that had infiltrated, it would be impossible for them to pass through these tens of thousands of miles and enter the Stargaze Palace. Besides, they would not have enough motive to do so. I don't know how the Stargaze Palace did it. However, I am sure that the powerhouse that made the 9 Palace suffer like this came from the east. Stunned, Zhuo could not speak as he felt a sudden shock. After a while, he said, "The east? How could the east have such devilish power? How is it possible? Wouldn't we know when we go take a look?" There was a trace of indifference in Luo Yun's tone. However, within this trace of indifference, there was a wave of anger and a wave of murderous intent. Zhuo was overjoyed when he heard these words. Inwardly, he was moved. Could it be that Luo Yun was planning to go? To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 365. In a short 3 or 4 days, the news of the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect had spread across the entire eastern region. The entire Heavenly Lake Empire had fallen into endless fear. Without the protection of the Archaic Mysteries sect, they knew that the collapse of the Heavenly Lake Empire was not far away. Besides the Archaic Mysteries sect, there were many other sects in the Heavenly Lake Empire. However, it would be difficult for these sects to support a lower-ranking empire, not to mention a middle-ranking empire like the Heavenly Lake Empire. The background of the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect had also spread like a plague. The Archaic Mysteries sect had colluded with the 9 Palace faction and led the wolf into the house, who had destroyed the Archaic Mysteries sect. Under the influence of countless rumors, all the questions pointed to the great Luo Empire and the Stargaze Palace. On the way back, Qin Wushuang did not waste any time. In less than a day, he had returned to the Stargaze Palace. Currently, the Stargaze Palace had already called back those core disciples. The entire higher-ups were reminiscing about that battle with the 9 Palace faction. When they saw Qin Wushuang had returned, Wei Yi, Zhou Fu, and the others all went up to congratulate him, especially Wei Yi as he gave a long sigh. "Junior brother Qin, from now on, the younger generation of the Stargaze Palace will look up to you. You are our role model. Senior brother Wei, I only encountered some fortuitous opportunities by chance," Qin Wushuang said humbly. Zhao Muji came up and laughed. "Even if it was a fortuitous opportunity, it's because you are blessed with great fortune. Junior brother Qin, you really make us, your senior brothers, feel ashamed." Zhuo Buchuan walked over with a smile. "You guys don't belittle yourselves. Wushuang was able to obtain such achievements because of his natural fortune and hard work. Each person has their own fortune. You guys only need to train hard, and you will have a bright future." Zhao Muji laughed. "That's right. Most likely, a talent like Junior Brother Qin would only appear once every 1,000 years. And someone like me, Zhao Muji, might appear once every 5 years. I don't want to compete." Currently, Qin Wushuang was far ahead of them. Thus, these fellow disciples had become much calmer. because the competition between them had already ended. Instead of having strange thoughts, it was better to calm down and appreciate Qin Wushuang's monstrous performance. Head Palace Master, on my way back from the Heavenly Lake Empire, I have attracted a lot of attention. However, the outside world seems to have pointed the spearhead of the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect to the Stargaze Palace. What should we do next? Qin Wushuang asked. Zhuo Buqian said, Today, I called everyone here to discuss this matter. To the Stargaze Palace, the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect is a rare opportunity. If they seize this opportunity to dominate the East, they would be on par with the other three upper-rank great empires and become another upper-rank great empire of the human nations. However, this way, the issue of dealing with the Nine Palace faction and eliminating the Archaic Mysteries sect must be made public. Everyone nodded. The pros and cons of this matter were already very clear. If they were to announce it to the public, for sure the Stargaze Palace would face pressure from the powerhouses behind the Nine Palace. If they did not announce it, it would be difficult for the Stargaze Palace to make a name for themselves. They would not be able to make all the Eastern countries submit willingly if they wanted to take advantage of the victory and unify the East. Tan Zhongqi said, Head Palace Master, I thought about it. Although the Nine Palace faction had lost, they might not know it was done by the Stargaze Palace. However, in the end, this debt will still fall on the Stargaze Palace. Thus, we should be calm and announce it immediately. We will sweep through the East with lightning speed. This idea received the approval of the other palace masters. They also felt that the truth could not be concealed. Since the Stargaze Palace had the power to defeat the Nine Palace, it would not matter even if they admitted it. They would strike while the iron was hot and stabilize the situation in the East. With the East as their base, they would declare themselves as an upper-rank empire. By that time, it would be impossible for the other upper-rank empires to not acknowledge the existence of the Great Luo. Zhuo Buqian nodded in a low voice and turned to ask Qin Wushuang. Wushuang, what do you think? Qin Wushuang said with a smile, I think it's all right. We will have to face it sooner or later. Instead of waiting passively, we should take the initiative to attack. The facts have proven that the benefits of taking the initiative is much better than taking a beating passively. Immediately, Qin Wushuang's words had won everyone's agreement. Tan Zhongqi laughed. That's right, to deal with the Nine Palace. If we didn't follow Wushuang's suggestion and let the Nine Palace attack the Stargaze Palace, we would have suffered a lot of casualties even if we could still beat them back. That's right, take the initiative to attack. Head Palace Master, since we already took the initiative, why don't we do it again? When we meet with all the Eastern countries, no one would dare to disobey our orders. Zhong Wuyin's ambition had also swelled. If they could become an upper-rank empire, then the Great Luo would have a completely different position. The entire Eastern situation would fall into the hands of the Stargaze Palace. The benefits of this were self-evident. While they were talking, a core disciple walked in from outside the door and walked before Zhuo Buqian in a hurry. Head Palace Master, a report came from the outer palace. The head dragon of the Dragon and Tiger sect is here to visit. Shi Chenglong, Zhuo Buqian, and the other four palace masters were all stunned. A trace of a playful smile emerged from the corner of Qin Wushuang's mouth. This Shi Chenglong had come at the right time. He could not have come earlier or later. What did he mean by coming at this time? However, after thinking about it for a while, he was able to grasp Shi Chenglong's mentality more or less. A while ago, the news of the tragedy of the Archaic Mysteries sect had reached the ears of the Dragon and Tiger sect and made them restless. And since there was no news of the Nine Palace invading the Stargaze Palace, it had increased the restlessness of the Dragon and Tiger sect. For sure, this Shi Chenglong had come to scout for information. Tan Zhongqi smiled meaningfully. Head Palace Master, this Shi Chenglong knows how to pick the time. Zhuo Buqian chuckled and nodded. When I went to visit them at the Vermilion Empire, they did not want to listen. Now, they're here to visit. For sure, they are fearful. Everyone, do you think we should meet or not? Initially, the relationship between the Stargaze Palace and the Dragon and Tiger sect was harmonious. However, After Zhuo Buchuan's visit last time, the Dragon and Tiger sect had tried to evade him. Thus, the entire Stargaze Palace was disappointed with the Dragon and Tiger sect. They knew that the Dragon and Tiger sect was not an ally that they could entrust their lives to. Head Palace Master, what do you think Shi Chenglong is planning by coming at this time? Tian Jixing asked. Zhuo Buchuan said, for sure, Shi Chenglong came to the Great Luo to scout the results of the Nine Palaces invasion. Along the way, he must have learned that the Stargaze Palace is safe and sound. Although he did not know about the Nine Palaces' defeat, he came to visit since the Stargaze Palace is safe. If the Stargaze Palace is in danger, for sure, he would turn around and leave. That's his intention. Qin Wushuang nodded. Head Palace Master has hit the nail on the head. Tan Zhongqi said coldly. If that's the case, let's give him the cold shoulder and let him experience the feeling of helplessness and despair. Zhuo Buchuan nodded. Second, you go see Shi Chenglong. If he wants to talk to you about the current situation, you will talk to him about family matters. If he asks about my whereabouts, you will tell him that I am in solitary training. If he asks about the Archaic Mysteries sect, you will tell him that it was the Stargaze Palace that did it. If he asks about the Nine Palace again, you will play dumb with him. Overall, you must not let him find out anything. Tan Zhongqi smiled mischievously. I understand. I want him to be in the clouds and be completely confused. That's right. Zhuo Buchuan said with a smile. When he is lost, I will appear and lay all my cards on the table. This way, the Dragon and Tiger sect will surrender without a fight. At that time, when the Stargaze Palace joins the Eastern Alliance, no one will dare to disobey. The other four palace masters all nodded and praised him. Tan Zhongqi said with a smile, Wei Yi Wushuang, you two come with me to meet Shi Chenglong. Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi both nodded and followed Tan Zhongqi. Zhuo Buchuan said with a smile, for sure, Shi Chenglong will be surprised when he sees second. Ha ha, since the Dragon and Tiger sect escaped from danger, we should deal with them this way. Shi Chenglong was arranged to stay in the front palace. Inwardly, although he was feeling somewhat anxious, he had some ideas when he saw the disciples coming and going from the Stargaze Palace with a calm expression as if no disaster had passed. Inwardly, he was feeling somewhat suspicious. He did not understand. Did the Nine Palace faction not come at all? Or did they leave? He thought that the Nine Palace were not those kind of people who would leave after coming. If the Nine Palace had come to the Stargaze Palace, they should not have left without doing anything, right? Could it be that the Stargaze Palace has revealed some special trump card and made the Nine Palace retreat? Shi Chenglong's head was full of questions. While he was thinking, a wave of footsteps came from outside the front palace. A dry laugh came from outside the door. Hearing this voice, Shi Chenglong's heart skipped a beat. How could it be him? Of course, he knew that this person was Tan Zhongqi. Didn't this person get injured by Zhao Heng a year ago? According to the rumors, there was no way to heal that level of internal injury. While he was thinking, Zhuo Buchuan had already walked in. Ha ha ha. Head Dragon Shi, which wind blew you here? Although Shi Chenglong was feeling suspicious inwardly, he was full of smiles on his face. Palace Master Tan, after 2 years, you are still as healthy as before. It seems that the rumors from the outside are not trustworthy. I am so comforted to see you safe and sound. I am so comforted. Ha ha. Head Shi, to the outside world, I should be a skeleton in the grave, right? Tan Zhongqi waved his hand and welcomed him with enthusiasm. Please sit. Shi Chenglong gave a long sigh. The outside world said that Zhao Heng, the assistant head of the Nine Palace, had injured your Dantian and died. Those were all lies. It caused me to sigh in the past year. Our 3 kingdoms of the East has lost yet another hero. Palace Master Tan, that rumor from the outside world is... It's not a rumor. I am just lucky to not have died. Tan Zhongqi waved his hand. Wei Yi Wushuang, come and greet Head Shi. Nice to meet you, Head Shi. Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi went up to salute. No need to be so polite. Initially at the Archaic Mysteries sect, I had already experienced your power. Now, it seems that you have improved. Suddenly, Shi Chenglong said with a low tone. Unfortunately, in less than 2 years, the Archaic Mysteries sect has become a historical name. Palace Master Tan, have you heard about the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect? Tan Zhongqi nodded with a faint smile. Yes, I have. A light flashed across Shi Chenglong's eyes. Do you have any inside information? Tan Zhongqi laughed. There is no inside information. It was done by the Stargaze Palace. As soon as he said these words, Shi Chenglong's heart twitched and his expression became complicated. P.S. There is one more update in the afternoon. Whether it will be 2 or 3 updates at night, it will depend on whether the monthly votes can break 900. It's almost there. We only need a dozen Galaxian warriors to step out, and we will achieve this goal. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 366. The Stargaze Palace did it? Of course. Shi Chenglong's expression became complicated as he thought quickly. What did Tan Zhongqi mean by his words? Was it a joke or an indirect threat? Currently, Tan Zhongqi was facing Shi Chenglong. Whether it was in terms of personal strength or psychological superiority, he had the absolute upper hand. Therefore, he was very relaxed. His expression carried a little smile as he looked at Shi Chenglong. However, he did not explain anything. Inwardly, Shi Chenglong calmed himself down and laughed. Palace Master Tan, that Archaic Mystery sect is on par with the Stargaze and the Dragon and Tiger sect. It's not an easy task to destroy them in a few days. Could it be that Home Master Tan is joking with me? Tan Zhongqi only smiled and shook his head slightly. Behind him, Qin Wushuang said leisurely, Head Shi, the Archaic Mysteries sect has led the wolf into the house. They have lured the Nine Palace and tried to invade the Eastern interests. The Stargaze Palace is only enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Stunned inwardly, Shi Chenglong looked at Qin Wushuang again. Inwardly, many thoughts emerged. What was going on today? In the past, Tan Zhongqi did not have the same strength and position as him. He would not be able to act so carefree before him. But today, Tan Zhongqi's expression and eyes were clearly very relaxed. There was no pressure or restraint. Most importantly, it seemed that these 2 young disciples did not put him, the head of the sect, in their eyes from the playful smile on the corner of their mouth. Qin Wushuang's words were the best proof. After all, Shi Chenglong was the head of the sect. Before he had probed the truth, of course, he would not show his emotions. He said with a smile, Palace Master Tan, this way, the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect was done by the Stargaze Palace. Yes, that's right. Tan Zhongqi nodded. After a pause, Shi Chenglong asked again, At the end of last year, your head palace masters came to visit the Dragon and Tiger sect. He said that the Nine Palace was about to invade. I don't know if it's true or not. Tan Zhongqi laughed. With the information from the Dragon and Tiger sect, I believe it's needless to say whether it's true or not. Head Shi, in the past, I had hoped that the 2 of us would work together to protect the Eastern interests. Only, due to the fact that your sect is pushing it left and right, the Stargaze Palace has no choice but to support alone. Fortunately, the heavens took pity on us, and the Stargaze Palace did not fall. On the contrary, the Archaic Mysteries sect that had led the wolf into the house had fallen. Dragon Head Shi, don't you think the creation of this world is a little too miraculous? Shi Chenglong smiled apologetically. I am slow-witted and do not know what Home Master Tan is referring to. The Archaic Mysteries sect schemed to use the Nine Palace to dominate the East and wanted to get rid of the thorn in their side. However, they didn't expect that their wishful thinking would end up with them being the first to be exterminated. Isn't this fate playing tricks on us? Shi Chenglong sighed. The Archaic Mysteries sect no longer exists. It really makes one sigh. Tan Zhongqi said with a smile. Indeed, Head Shi is a sentimental person. To the Stargaze Palace, not only do we not feel sad about the destruction of the Archaic Mysteries sect, we have been looking forward to it. This way, the situation in the east will be clearer. Isn't that a good thing? Shi Chenglong said, for the past 1,000 years, the eastern region has been dominated by the three kingdoms. Once the situation is out of balance, it would be hard to predict the future. If the balance of power between the three kingdoms is broken, I am afraid it would be easier for the foreign powerhouses to invade. Tan Zhongqi said, Head Shi, your words have the cause and effect reversed. It was because the archaic mysteries sect had attracted the foreign powerhouses that they were exterminated. It was not because of their extermination that the foreign powerhouses invaded. Shi Chenglong shook his head silently and only smiled bitterly. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang said, In my opinion, not only will the situation in the east not be unpredictable, it will become clearer. Tan Zhongqi could not help but nod in agreement. Shi Chenglong said with surprise, What do you mean? Tan Zhongqi said with a smile, Head Shi, you only need to observe and you will know when the time comes. Shi Chenglong said unhappily, Today, Palace Master Tan's words are not straightforward. I wonder if Head Palace Master Zhua is at the Stargaze Palace? Tan Zhongqi said leisurely, Tan Zhongqi, speak, I'm always straightforward to those who are straightforward and not straightforward to those who are not. Do you think you are a straightforward person? Of course, I am a straightforward person. Tan Zhongqi said, I am afraid not. On that day, when my head palace master went to the dragon and tiger sect, it was not that your sect did not know the situation. Yet, you only wanted to protect yourselves and did not dare to agree to form an alliance to resist the Nine Palace. Just this point alone is enough to make me unhappy. And since then, the relationship between our two families has also not been so straightforward. Shi Chenglong said angrily, Is it Head Palace Master Zhua's intention to speak today? Head Palace Master is in solitary training and did not know about your visit. However, if it were any other Palace Master, they would most likely have the same intention. Shi Chenglong said with a cold sneer, I don't believe that Head Palace Master Zhua would not see the big picture. What's the big picture? Tan Zhongqi asked lightly. The 1,000 years of friendship between our two houses is the big picture. The eastern situation is unpredictable and needs our two houses to discuss the big picture. That is the big picture. Tan Zhongqi could not help but laugh as he shook his head and sighed. Head Shi, indeed, the relationship between our two houses is the big picture if we were to form an alliance to resist the Nine Palace. However, now this big picture is gone. As for the eastern situation, the Stargaze Palace does not plan to discuss it with anyone. However, you only need to worry about the dragon and tiger sect. When he said here, suddenly, Tan Zhongqi laughed. Head Shi, I would like to ask a presumptuous question. Go ahead. Shi Chenglong said with a gloomy expression, If that Nine Palace invaded your sect, how would you protect yourselves? Shi Chenglong said, The dragon and tiger sect does not hold any grudge with the Nine Palace. Why would they invade us? Tan Zhongqi said coldly, This way, the Nine Palace holds a grudge with the Stargaze Palace? Why would they invade the Stargaze Palace? Head Shi, from the beginning to the end, you feel that the Nine Palace invaded the Stargaze Palace because of a personal grudge and not because of the entire East. Thus, you feel that you are at a disadvantage by forming an alliance with the Stargaze Palace, right? Shi Chenglong was left speechless after hearing this. However, Tan Zhongqi's words were a form of strategy. He wanted to weaken Shi Chenglong's temperament. By that time, the head palace master would make the final decision and make the dragon and tiger sect cooperate obediently. From that point, the situation of the three empires would end. The Stargaze Palace would become the sole ruler of the East. Suddenly, Tan Zhongqi laughed. Head Shi, I was angry and my tone was a bit excessive. Please don't blame me. All the gains and losses in the past are in the past. Let's look forward. Let's do what needs to be done. Once the situation has formed, no one can change it. Shi Chenglong could not understand Tan Zhongqi's words. Vividly, it seemed that Tan Zhongqi was hinting at him and reminding him of something. Inwardly, he was somewhat hesitant. The Stargaze Palace claimed to be responsible for the destruction of the archaic mysteries sect. However, Since when did the Stargaze Palace have the power to destroy the archaic mystery sect? If they truly had the power, wouldn't they also destroy the dragon and tiger sect? When he thought here, just when he was about to speak, Tan Zhongqi spoke first. Head sure, my head palace master will be coming out soon. How about you stay for a few days? Sure, Chenglong felt that Zhuo Buchuan was the most reliable person in the Stargaze Palace. At the moment, he nodded. All right, I will wait for head palace master Zhuo to come out. Tan Zhongqi chuckled. Wait, tell them to serve head sure well and not neglect the guests. Wei Yi laughed. Of course, the Stargaze Palace never neglect guests. I will take my leave. Tan Zhongqi cupped his hands in a salute to Shi Chenglong and walked out with Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi. When he walked out of the door, Tan Zhongqi could not help but smile. Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi also had a smile on their faces. When they saw Shi Chenglong today, he no longer had the temperament of a head. Apparently, the recent confusing situation in the East had deeply tortured the nerves of this dragon and tiger sect head. Qin Wushuang walked out of the front palace and planned to return to the Green Cloud Palace. Suddenly, a person rushed in. Qin Wushuang looked and saw that it was Emissary Lu. This Emissary Lu was Qin Wushuang's old friend. Initially, when the old devil Jiyin went to the Bayou country to cause trouble, it was all thanks to this Emissary Lu. Thus, Qin Wushuang was grateful to this Emissary Lu. Emissary Lu, why are you in such a hurry? Qin Wushuang greeted him with a smile. When Emissary Lu saw Qin Wushuang, he said with joy, Wushuang, I was just looking for you. I didn't expect to see you here. There's a letter here from the imperial capital of the great Luo Empire. It says that I have to hand it to you personally. A letter? Qin Wushuang took it and opened it. There was only one piece of paper inside. When he opened it, there were a dozen small words. An old friend invites me to meet at the White Cloud Inn in the imperial capital of the great Luo Empire. See you there. There was only one line of words on this letter. There was no signature or signature. Qin Wushuang took in his hand. For a moment, he was suspicious. With such graceful handwriting, it should have been written by a woman. He did not know many women. So who could it be? Emissary Lu, who delivered this letter. Emissary Lu smiled bitterly. This letter was delivered with a large number of letters from the imperial capital. Only, this letter was somewhat special. There was a note on the outside saying that it must be opened by Qin Wushuang. I thought that this matter might be urgent, so I came to deliver it myself. Thank you, Emissary Lu. Qin Wushuang expressed his gratitude. Since he had nothing else to do, he would not lose anything regardless of who had invited him. Qin Wushuang thought for a while and thought, could it be that Miss Mu Rong? Who else could it be? However, that Miss Mu Rong saw me wearing a mask, and I did not tell her my real name. Could it be that she had already guessed my identity? With this question in his mind, he wanted to see the truth even more. Immediately, he bid farewell to Emissary Lu and returned to the Stargaze Palace to inform Tan Zhongqi. Then, he rushed towards the imperial capital. The Stargaze Palace was about 100 miles southeast of the imperial capital. Thus, he arrived in a moment. With Qin Wushuang's identity, it was easy to enter and exit the imperial capital of the great Luo Empire as long as he showed the National Scholar Plate. After a moment, he found the location of the White Cloud Inn. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 367. Just when he was about to walk in, suddenly he stopped. He thought, I cannot go up recklessly. The martial arts world is dangerous. What if an enemy came to this place? Wouldn't I have fallen into a trap? While he was hesitating, on the highest floor of the White Cloud restaurant, a bamboo window opened and a head stuck out. She waved at Qin Wushuang. Young Master Qin, over here. This voice was sweet and charming with some cuteness. It was Miss Mu Rong's maid, Little Bamboo. Finally, Qin Wushuang felt reassured and walked up. The White Cloud restaurant was the tallest restaurant in the imperial capital. When a banquet was held on the top floor, Not only could one see the entire imperial capital, one could also enjoy the beautiful scenery outside the window. Bao Bao had been standing on Qin Wushuang's shoulder. On the other hand, the purple flame electric beast was much more depressed. He could only stay inside Qin Wushuang's storage bag. Bao Bao was also abnormally excited when he heard someone calling him. With a squeak, he scuttled up. He did not take the stairs, but climbed up along the floor. Qin Wushuang shook his head with a smile and walked up the stairs. When he arrived at the top floor, Little Bamboo was already waiting outside. When she saw Qin Wushuang, she sized him up from head to toe. "Young Master Qin, is this your true face?" Qin Wushuang nodded. "Miss Little Bamboo, I trust you have been well since we last met." Little Bamboo chuckled. "Nothing is wrong with me. My Missy is a little sick." "What's wrong with Miss Murong? Could it be she is sick after the long journey?" Qin Wushuang asked with concern. "Ha ha, my Missy has a good body. How could she be sick?" Little Bamboo chuckled. "She's just worried sick. She worries about the things she should worry about and the things she shouldn't." From inside, Miss Murong scolded lightly. "Little Bamboo, you talk too much. Hurry and invite young Master Qin in." Little Bamboo laughed. "Okay, but Missy, young Master Qin is much more energetic after taking off his mask. You must be prepared." She pushed open the door and welcomed him with one hand. "Young Master Qin, go in." Qin Wushuang nodded with a smile and walked in. This place was like a private room, but also like a balcony. It was very spacious, and it was very convenient for sightseeing from a high place. Miss Murong stood with her hands on the railing. When she saw Qin Wushuang, she smiled and nodded her head. She glanced at Qin Wushuang and said with a smile, "Young Master Qin, please forgive me for my presumptuous invitation." Qin Wushuang sighed and said, "Miss Murong, please don't say that. Speaking of this matter, it is me who is even more terrified. Back then, in the Nine-Raven Imperial capital, I was not allowed to show my face to others with a mask, and that was not very straightforward. Since young mistress already knows my identity today, I have to apologize to young mistress." Miss Murong smiled and said, "Qin Gongzi, since I had my own difficulties on that day, it can't be considered rude. Please have a seat." After Qin Wushuang sat down, Xiao Zhu came up to pour wine for him with a smile. Just as she was filling the cup to the brim, a furry little animal jumped out from the side and grabbed the cup, raising its head to drink it all. Little Bamboo was stunned. Just as she was about to hit him, that furry little guy was of course Bao Bao. He made a face at Little Bamboo happily and passed the wine cup to Little Bamboo, indicating for her to pour another cup. "Xiao Zhu, don't be rude. This is young Master Qin's spiritual beast." Young Master Murong said lightly. Qin Wushuang said, "Bao Bao, don't be rude to a beauty." Bao Bao laughed mischievously. "Boss Wushuang, why didn't you prepare a cup for me when you guys were drinking?" Xiao Zhu scolded. "You monkey, you are also learning to drink wine." Bao Bao had a gentle personality and did not get angry. Instead, he argued, "Can't monkeys drink wine? The monkey wine from my Monkey King Mountain is 100 times more delicious than the one here." Miss Murong was stunned. Then she seemed to have realized something. "So you are Bao Bao." Bao Bao was proud. "Yes, I am Bao Bao. Your beautiful sister also knows me, Bao Bao. Oh, by the way, Boss Wushuang called you Miss Murong, could it be?" Miss Murong smiled lightly. "Yes, my surname is Murong. I also went to the dispersed praying mountain and met the Silver Monkey King. He said you had gone to the human countries." Bao Bao chuckled. "This way, we are all acquaintances. Then you guys should treat me to a drink." Miss Murong nodded. "Little Zhu, prepare a cup for Bao Bao." Little Zhu pouted her mouth. It's strange that a monkey can drink wine. Despite her words, she did not dare to disobey. She took a cup for Bao Bao and poured him a cup. Bao Bao grabbed it and gulped it down. He smacked his tongue. "More, more. This wine is much stronger than the monkey wine. It has strength and kick. I like it, ha." Feeling helpless, Little Zhu could only pour another cup. Miss Murong said, "Young Master Qin, that day when we met at the Nine-Raven Imperial capital, it was rare that young Master Qin could recognize the music. Thus, in my heart, I have always regarded you as a close friend. Today, I have come to tell you a major matter. Qin Wushuang immediately said with a serious expression, "Please enlighten me, Miss Murong." Miss Murong said, "I don't dare to enlighten you. I heard that the Nine Palace faction had invaded the Stargaze Palace. The entire human countries were talking about this matter. I wonder if people from a Nine Palace faction had come?" Qin Wushuang did not hide it as he nodded. Yes, they had come. Hearing this answer, Miss Murong showed a worried expression. They had already come? I wonder how the battle went. Since Qin Wushuang knew that Miss Murong was a guest from the Xianyuan Mound, he did not need to hide it as he gave a long sigh. For now, the Stargaze Palace's crisis has been resolved. Suddenly, Bao Bao said, "Miss Murong, the Nine Palace faction was aggressive and we had beaten them away. Ha. Everyone said that the Nine Palace faction was great, but we had beaten them to a pulp. Besides Watianxi, we had killed all of them." Miss Murong's beautiful face revealed a strange expression. The Nine Palace faction had suffered such heavy losses. How come there were no such rumors in the outside world? Qin Wushuang said in a low voice, "Perhaps Watianxi did not want people to know. And for now, the Stargaze Palace has not announced the news of defeating the Nine Palace faction. Thus, although there are many rumors in the outside world, most of them are groundless. Since Watianxi is not dead, everything is easy." There was a trace of seriousness in Miss Murong's tone. "Young Master Qin, that Watianxi is related to a major powerhouse in the Xianyuan Mound. This powerhouse is one of the top powerhouses in the entire Xianyuan Mound. Thus, it's good that they did not kill Watianxi. If Watianxi had died, this matter would be somewhat troublesome." Qin Wushuang had heard more than once that Watianxi was related to the Xianyuan Mound. Zhao Heng's grandson had said it. Li Bai had said it. And now, Miss Murong had also said it. It seemed that it was true. Immediately, he asked, "Miss Murong, which major powerhouse is Watianxi's backer?" "That powerhouse is called the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect in the Xianyuan Mound. Although they only belong to the second-tier powerhouse, they can call the wind and summon the rain. As a feudal lord, they possess great strength. Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect." Finally, Qin Wushuang had heard the name of this powerhouse. Miss Murong nodded, and inwardly, there was a trace of ripples. Initially, she did not want to mention this name because she loathed it. "I just don't know how powerful this Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect is." Qin Wushuang could not help but ask. Miss Murong said with a smile, "It's hard to describe their exact strength. If you have the chance to enter the Xianyuan Mound in the future, you will know." Qin Wushuang nodded. "Thank you for your guidance. I just don't know what position that Watianxi holds in the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect." Miss Murong said, "There are 3 major surnames in the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect. The first one is the Luo, the second and third are the Tian and Zhua. Although Watianxi is only an offspring of the Zhua, he is the nephew of an elder of the Luo. Thus, although Watianxi's strength is ordinary in the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect, and he does not hold a high position, if something were to happen to him, the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect would surely get involved. After all, the Nine Palace faction is a representative of the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect in the human countries." Up to this point, Qin Wushuang had understood everything. Suddenly, Bao Bao said, "Sister Murong, although the Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect is powerful, are they as powerful as the Xianyuan clan?" Miss Murong smiled bitterly. "Bao Bao, in the Xianyuan Mound, who is as powerful as the Xianyuan clan? Even across the entire Tian Xian land, only a few could stand on par with the Xianyuan clan. I am afraid no one would dare to boast that they are more powerful than the Xianyuan clan." Bao Bao said, "That's good. As long as it's not the Xianyuan clan, we are not afraid. The Xianyuan clan is the descendant of the divine clan, and we cannot afford to offend them. The Heavenly Luo Daoist Sect is powerful. However, if they bully Boss Wushuang, I will not let them off." As Bao Bao spoke, he grabbed a plate before him. He grabbed the plate with one hand and shoveled the peanuts into his mouth with the other hand. He started to chew with a crunching sound and spoke with an unconcerned tone. Little Bamboo was also amused by his table manners. This little thing has such a big tone. Miss Murong used her eyes to stop Little Bamboo from speaking and said, "Bow bow. In the future, if you achieve great success and awaken the bloodline of the ancient spiritual monkey, you will not be afraid of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Only they will be afraid of you. However, now, it's best to not become enemies with the heavenly Luo Taoist sect." Bao did not care. "I am not afraid of them." Miss Murong nodded and suddenly said, "Young Master Qin, I have a question, but I don't know if I can ask." "Please ask, Miss Murong." "Yes." After a moment of silence, Miss Murong asked, "I just don't know. Is your ancestral home in the Great Luo Empire?" Just when Qin Wushuang was about to nod and say yes, suddenly, he remembered that time when he had returned to the Qin family from the Green Jade Mountain. His father had told him about a secret ancestral instruction of the Qin clan. He said that in a mysterious place, there was a Qin headquarters. At that time, Qin Wushuang did not pay much attention to it. Now, hearing Miss Murong's question, he could not help but connect the dots. "Miss Murong, why do you ask?" The surname Qin is rather common in the human countries. Thus, it's not easy to find out where my ancestral home is. Miss Murong gave a light sigh. Speaking of the Qin, in the Xian Yuan Mound, there's also a Qin. That Qin clan was not to be underestimated. Compared to the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, they are superior but not inferior. Hearing her words, Qin Wushuang's heartbeat accelerated rapidly. There was also a Qin in the Xian Yuan Mound. Imperceptibly, this positive signal was in line with his father's ancestral instruction. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang could not help but think, could that place mentioned by the ancestral instruction be the Xian Yuan Mound? If that's the case, why would the Qin of the Xian Yuan Mound set up camp in a place like the Bayou country? For a time, countless questions emerged in his mind. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 368. With an indifferent expression, Miss Murong fixed her gaze on Qin Wushuang. However, she did not try to pry into Qin Wushuang's thoughts. Instead, she said with a smile, "Of course, that Qin family did not have any secular powerhouses in the human countries." Qin Wushuang laughed. "There are many Qin family in the Tianxian land. No wonder Miss Murong has such doubts." Suddenly, Miss Murong said, "However, with young Master Qin's talent, if you enter the Xian Yuan Mound and seek shelter with the Qin family, it would be an ideal choice." Qin Wushuang shook his head resolutely. "Miss Murong, if I am related to the Qin family of the Xian Yuan Mound, it would not matter. If I am not related, I would not want to seek shelter and live under someone else's roof. It's also not something a real man would do in the face of danger." Miss Murong knew that she had misspoken as her face blushed slightly. "It's my fault, please forgive me, young Master Qin." Miss Murong has good intentions. Qin Wushuang smiled freely. While they were talking, suddenly, Miss Murong's expression changed slightly. She stood up abruptly and walked to the railing before the balcony. She looked into the distance, and a trace of surprise appeared in her eyes as she looked towards the southwest direction. "Miss Murong, what's wrong?" Bao Bao asked curiously. Just when Miss Murong was about to speak, suddenly, a long whistle came from the southwest direction. As soon as this whistle was initiated, in the blink of an eye, it seemed to have traveled a few dozen miles. The speed was incomparable, and this whistle did not stop. It was as if a 100-meter tall wave had swept over from the vast ocean. As soon as this whistle rushed over, the birds in the sky above the imperial capital flew away in a panic. Qin Wushuang's expression changed slightly. "Enemies are invading. Miss Murong, I will take my leave." "Bao Bao, let's go." Qin Wushuang cupped his hands in a salute and jumped down from the tall building with Bao Bao. In a moment, they rushed out of the city gate and rushed towards the direction of the Stargaze Palace. Now, that whistle was even closer. as if the sky was collapsing and the earth was rushing towards the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace. Wave after wave of the whistle was overshadowed by the previous one. In a moment, Qin Wushuang had arrived before the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace. Currently, all 5 palace masters of the Stargaze Palace had gathered before the mountain gate. Even the supreme leader of the Dragon and Tiger sect, Shi Chenglong, rushed out and stood at a distance. Qin Wushuang rushed to the door and greeted the 5 palace masters. Tan Zhongqi suddenly said, "Wushuang, take out your graceful spiritual bow and give it to the head palace master." It was rare for Tan Zhongqi to give orders to Qin Wushuang directly. However, at this moment, his tone was determined and carried a wave of unquestionable authority. Qin Wushuang knew that the strength of this enemy had most likely surpassed the realm of the spirit martial force. If it weren't for the graceful spiritual bow, most likely the Stargaze Palace would not have any chance of winning. Qin Wushuang nodded and handed the graceful spiritual bow to Zhuo Buqian. Zhuo Buqian did not refuse as he took it and put it on his shoulder. Qin Wushuang also let out the purple flame electric beast and instructed, "Bow alone, you two pay attention. If the enemy is too strong, everyone will go up together. Don't hold back." The purple flame electric beast had just crawled out and did not know about the changes in the outside world. He laughed evilly. "Is there a strong enemy? Where is he? I will go and tear him apart." However, Bao said, "Senior Lone, I am afraid you cannot tear this enemy apart." Just when the purple flame electric beast was about to speak, that tide-like whistle sounded again like thunder. This long whistle had caused the trees before the mountain gate of the Stargaze Palace to sway. Leaves flew in the air and kept breaking. The purple flame electric beast swore, "Damn, what kind of person is this? Such powerful strength." Qin Wushuang said in a low voice, "Most likely, this person is an elite warrior at the Void Martial stage. Don't attack recklessly. To attack together, you must use strategy." The purple flame electric beast said, "Void Martial stage, darn it. If I hadn't been sealed for 1,000 years, I would not be afraid of him. I could kill him with one slap." Bao did not seem to be afraid as he laughed. "Senior Lone, don't just brag. Tell me honestly, are you scared?" The purple flame electric beast cried out, "Why should I be scared of him? So what if he is at the Void Martial stage? Even if I cannot beat him, he cannot kill me." Just as they were talking, 2 figures flashed from the bottom of the mountain path and quickly rushed up. Zhuo Buqian shouted, "Stop!" The 2 figures slowed down at the foot of the mountain. Indeed, one of them was that Zhuo Tianxi, and the other person appeared to be young and less than 30 years old. The one who spoke first was not Zhuo Tianxi, but that young man. Of course, this person was Luo Yun of the Heavenly Luo Taoist sect. He had brought Zhuo Tianxi to the Stargaze Palace to investigate the truth. Zhuo Tianxi looked up and saw Bao and the purple flame electric beast. His entire body trembled as if he had been struck by lightning. He said with a stutter, "Indeed, it's the Stargaze Palace." Luo Yun asked coldly, "What clues do you have?" "Those 2 spiritual beasts are before the mountain gate." From Zhuo Tianxi's tone, there was a trace of unwillingness, jealousy, and even more hatred. During this time, he had always suspected the 9 Raven Temple. He did not think that the Stargaze Palace had the power to annihilate the entire 9 Palace faction. And at this moment, seeing was believing. Indeed, it was the Stargaze Palace that had caused the 9 Palace faction to suffer. If Luo Yun had not reminded him, he would not have even considered this direction. Hearing his words, Luo Yun laughed coldly. "Now, you should believe my words." Zhuo Tianxi gritted his teeth and said, "Please, Luo Yun, seek justice for the 9 Palace. If I do not take revenge, the anger in my heart will not be extinguished." Luo Yun shouted, "Follow me." After he had finished speaking, he dashed up the mountain path. Zhuo Buqian raised the graceful spiritual bow high and shouted coldly with the arrow on the bowstring, "Friend, if you do not stay, the bow and arrow will be merciless." Luo Yun laughed coldly. The bow and arrow will be merciless? Why don't you shoot an arrow at me? If you can hit me, you are the best. However, Zhuotianzi reminded him, Luo Yun, the Stargaze Palace has a miraculous bow with matchless power. Both Assistant Leader Zhao and Assistant Leader Dao had suffered from this bow. Zhao Hong had the strength of a perfect stage, and his Dantian was injured by a middle-stage warrior. Luo Yun was stunned. A perfect stage warrior had been injured by a middle-stage warrior? This was simply too inconceivable. Although Luo Yun was an elite warrior at the Void Martial stage, he was only at the first stage of the Void Martial stage, the refined Void Martial stage. In the Xianyuan Mound, there were countless elite warriors at the refined Void Martial stage. It would not be Luo Yun's turn to run amok. Since he had arrived at the human countries, of course, he wanted to show off his power. He wanted to find a place to vent his anger from being ignored by the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. Thus, he had initiated his temperament without restraint because he had intended to do so. He wanted to use the Stargaze Palace to vent his anger. However, when he heard that the other party had this spiritual bow, he could not help but feel fearful inwardly. If he could injure an opponent 2 levels above him, then it would be possible for this bow to injure an elite warrior at the refined Void Martial stage. However, since he had spoken his mind, of course he would not stop moving forward. Only, his footsteps had become much heavier. With a flash of his hand, a folding fan appeared. This was his self-defense weapon at the Void Martial stage. If the power of that bow and arrow is really that great, I'll just dodge it. If it is an undeserved reputation, I will show my skills before Zhuotianzi and let him know the difference between an elite warrior at the Void Martial stage and him at the perfect stage. What he thought here? Luo Yun laughed coldly. The Stargaze Palace is only a second-rate sect in the human countries. Yet, you are threatening an elite warrior from the Xianyuan Mound. It seems that you guys want to destroy your sect. Inwardly, Zhuobuchuan and the others were shocked. Indeed, he was an elite warrior from the Xianyuan Mound. However, up to this point, regardless of where the enemy had come from, they could only bite the bullet and deal with them. Or else, they would most likely not survive today's disaster. Zhuobuchuan said, if you are from the Xianyuan Mound, you should not be so unreasonable. You have lost the demeanor of an elite warrior by force. Luo Yun laughed coldly. Demeanor of an elite warrior? You think the Stargaze Palace is qualified to talk about demeanor? Zhuobuchuan said coldly, if you come within 300 meters, I will not show any mercy with the bow in my hand. This bow is the most precious treasure of the Stargaze Palace. It's not my first time killing an elite warrior at the Void Martial stage. Let's see if you have the strength to block the power of this bow. Luo Yun laughed. Good, let's try it. After he had finished speaking, he continued to walk up without stopping. His steps were not fast, but each step he took was very large. With each step he took, he was closer to the mountain gate by an inch. Fearing the power of the graceful spiritual bow, Zhuotianzi also followed behind Luo Yun and moved closer. He swore, Zhuobuchuan, your Stargaze Palace has killed so many elite warriors of the Nine Palace. As long as I'm still alive, I will not rest until I am dead. Today will be the day when the Stargaze Palace will be destroyed. Head Palace Master, he is within 300 meters. Shoot him. The other Palace Masters were also enraged by Luo Yun's arrogant attitude, as they all shouted. Zhuobuchuan nodded and took aim. He pulled the bow into a full moon shape and loosened his grip slightly. Instantly, a wave of green light broke through the sky and arrived before Luo Yun's face with a whoosh. Although Luo Yun was in a hurry, he was paying attention to Zhuobuchuan's movements at all times. Inwardly, he was already on high alert when he heard the shouts of those Palace Masters. When he saw the flash of this green light, his mind was shaken as he was also intimidated by this graceful spiritual bow. Immediately, he lifted his body and dashed to the sky to avoid this exceptional arrow. The remaining power of this arrow shot into the mountain wall ahead of him. With a booming sound, it opened up a giant hole that was a few acres in size. The entire mountain road shook violently. Its might was so great that it was simply shocking to the extreme. Luo Yin turned around in the air and floated down like a falling leaf. He was full of restraining his fear of the graceful spiritual bow. Only one arrow was this powerful. If he were to shoot a series of arrows and seal off all his escape routes, it would not be easy to deal with him. However, since he had witnessed the power of the graceful spiritual bow, the restraining fear inwardly had lessened. However, the anger inside his heart had been completely ignited by Zhuo Buqian's arrow. He said coldly, "Today, if I do not destroy the Stargaze Palace, I will not return to the Xianyuan Mound." Everyone in the Stargaze Palace, listen well. If you're not a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, get lost immediately. If you are a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, you can only blame yourself for joining the wrong sect. Next year, today will be the day of your death. As Luo Yun spoke, he initiated his temperament all of a sudden. Suddenly, his figure flashed from the sky, and countless illusions appeared. These illusions rushed up to the mountain gate at full speed. P.S. Old Bull has fulfilled his promise. Today, there's a fifth update. I will not disappoint everyone's passionate heart. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 369. Indeed, Luo Yun's divine skill was the shadow clone technique exclusive to elite warriors at the Void Martial stage. These shadow clones all contained Luo Yun's presence. Although they could not do whatever they wanted like the real body, it was easy for them to confuse the enemy in a short time. Especially those at the spiritual martial force who were confused, they were dumbstruck. Zhuo Buqian held the bow in his hand. For a time, he was dazzled and did not know how to shoot. He only had 2 green jade arrows left, and he must not waste these 2. However, there were at least a dozen shadow clones before him, and he did not know where to start. At this moment, the purple flame electric beast gave a loud roar and rushed before the mountain gate. He opened his mouth, roar, roar, roar. He spat out 3 mouthfuls of spiritual chi, and 3 waves of genuine fire formed into 3 rows. As soon as the power of this genuine fire rushed forward, it instantly shattered those shadow clones and turned them into nothingness. Only traces of Luo Yun's remaining presence continued to rise and spread. Luo Yun withdrew his real body and shouted, "This bastard ruined my business." He waved the folding fan in his hand, and immediately, a dozen fan-shaped ripples shot out from the front of the fan. Each circle was more ferocious than the previous one and slashed towards the purple flame electric beast like a dense blade. When this fan-shaped attack shot out, it rolled and spun into a spiral light. Its speed increased and appeared to have the power to cut the purple flame electric beast into pieces. The purple flame electric beast did not dare to neglect as he twisted his body and jumped into the air. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of genuine fire. This time, as he urged the fire, it turned into countless fist-sized fireballs and shot towards Luo Yun like a heavy downpour. Furious, Luo Yun waved his fan in the air, and 3 green light patterns formed into an umbrella-like shape. It formed circles of invisible defensive walls. Bang, bang, bang. When those fireballs fell on that defensive wall, it seemed to have bounced off an extremely hard material. Instantly, they scattered in all directions. Being an elite warrior at the refined Void Martial stage, of course, Luo Yun felt humiliated when he was attacked by a perfect stage spiritual beast. He laughed eerily. "Bastard, you're seeking death by provoking me." Just as Zhang Xian was about to launch an attack, a golden light suddenly flashed before his eyes. A massive, golden-furred ape darted down from the mountain gate, wielding a massive club in its hands. It smashed down on Zhang Xian's head and bellowed, "Brat, take this!" Naturally, this giant golden ape was Bao Bao's evolved body. During this time, Bao Bao often transformed into his body and fought with Zhuo Tianxi. The golden monkey bloodline inside his body also kept awakening. On top of that, The power of the divine ivory flower was unleashed every day. As such, its cultivation was increasing day by day. Even in the Xianyuan mound, a 10,000-year holy object like the holy ivory flower was a rare treasure, not to mention at the dispersed praying mountain. Thus, after Bao Bao consumed it, once he refined it, its power gradually emerged. Through the details, it strengthened Bao Bao's body by at least 10 times compared to when he had just evolved. When he swung this stick, instantly, Bao Bao's vicious nature as the immemorial spiritual monkey was completely stimulated. After images of the cudgel continuously smashed towards Luo Yun's head. When the purple flame electric beast saw Bao Bao launching an attack, he did not dare to fall behind. He also rushed over and shot a mouthful of genuine fire at Luo Yun's back. Although Luo Yun was exceptional, he still felt somewhat pressured when he was surrounded by these two spiritual beasts. He was at the refined void martial stage. Initially, he could easily deal with two elite warriors at the perfect stage. In less than 10 rounds, he could kill them. However, when facing these two extraordinary spiritual beasts, he realized that it was not as simple as dealing with human perfect stage warriors. Not only did these two spiritual beasts possess astonishing attack power that he did not dare to underestimate, their mobility and vicious nature were also incomparable to ordinary spiritual beasts. Especially the giant club of that furred ape, it appeared to be an ordinary move. One could even say that it was simple to the point of being laughable. However, vividly, that cudgel contained a wave of temperament that made his heart tremble. This feeling was as if this cudgel could directly attack his spiritual perception. Inwardly, Luo Yun was shocked. Regardless of how strong an ordinary attack was, it would not make one's spiritual perception tremble. Clearly, such attack carried a wave of evil qi. He didn't know that this was Bao Bao's spiritual monkey presence. Vividly, it could intimidate one's mind when unleashed in this attack. Although the purple flame electric beast did not have the bloodline of the divine clan, before he was sealed, he was at the peak of the perfect stage. He could break into the void martial stage at any moment. Thus, this genuine fire attack also contained endless power. Although Luo Yun was an elite warrior at the refined void martial stage, he did not dare to use his body to experience the taste of the genuine fire. Qin Wushuang approached Zhuo Buqian, head palace master. Kill him while he's down. This Luo Yun is powerful. Now is the best time to kill him. However, Zhuo Buqian hesitated. Indeed, now was the best time to deal with Luo Yun. If he missed this opportunity, it would be almost impossible to deal with an elite warrior at the void martial stage like Luo Yun. However, the problem was that this Luo Yun came from the Xianyuan Mound. If he killed him, he would indirectly bring the Stargaze Palace into the abyss of eternal damnation. Qin Wushuang knew Zhuo Buqian's dilemma. Head palace master, if you are indecisive, you will suffer. If we let this Luo Yun free, he will start a massacre today. How can the Stargaze Palace protect itself? Inwardly, Zhuo Buqian was shocked. Finally, he made up his mind. He took a deep breath and slowly pulled the bow to aim. When Zhuo Tianxi saw this from behind, he immediately reminded him, Luo Yun, Zhuo Buqian is using the bow again. You must be careful of this bastard's sneak attack. Luo Yun was feeling anxious. Hearing Zhuo Tianxi's reminder, he mumbled some words. Suddenly, a wave of light emerged from his body. Following this light, his figure disappeared. Stunned, Bao Bao turned his eyes and searched around. He raised his giant stick high in the air and gave a loud shout. Then, he smashed it 10 meters ahead. Boom! The power of this smash caused clear ripples in the air. As the ripples spread out, one could only hear a strong explosion sound. Bursts of green smoke emerged. Gradually, a figure emerged from the green smoke. Initially, it seemed to be an illusion. Then, it continued to solidify. It was Luo Yun's true body. This Luo Yun was unable to restrain his anger. He never expected that two spiritual beasts at the perfect stage would break through his refined void martial stage moves. Bao Bao laughed. Kid, don't run away. Fight with me, for another 300 rounds. Luo Yun said angrily. Stupid monkey, if I don't use some of my skills, do you really think that I, an elite warrior at the Void Martial stage, am easy to bully? Bao Bao said, even if you're made of gold, I will still smash you with my stick. The purple flame electric beast behind him did not speak any more words and rushed over like lightning. His entire body congealed into a ball like a cannonball and rolled into a wave of purple light. With a fast speed, he crashed towards Luo Yun. This crash was one of the purple flame electric beast's trump cards. It was a powerful ultimate move called the Meteorite Crash. The power of this crash was controlled by the purple flame electric beast. The stronger the opponent, the more powerful it would be. With a flash of purple light, the purple flame electric beast's crash arrived before Luo Yun. Indeed, Luo Yun felt extremely depressed. Today, he had arrived with an overbearing aura. Initially, he thought it would be a piece of cake to tear down the Stargaze Palace. Unexpectedly, these two spiritual beasts that had appeared out of nowhere had extraordinary combat power. In his haste, he was at a disadvantage. In a flash, his figure disappeared into the sky. Before the purple flame electric beast's crash had succeeded, he rolled his body in the air and returned to his true form. He crawled before the mountain gate and appeared to be protecting his master loyally. Bao Bao searched around and used his spiritual perception from the spiritual monkey bloodline to scan every corner. He looked down coldly and saw that Luo Yun had dropped to the bottom of the mountain path. What was this guy doing? Instead of advancing, he retreated. Bao Bao did not chase after him. He knew that in terms of true strength, regardless of him or alone, they were far inferior to this person. After all, the difference between the spiritual martial force and the void martial force existed objectively. With a gust of wind, Luo Yun's body dropped to the bottom of the mountain path. With an ashen face, a wave of ruthlessness was written on his face. He laughed out of extreme anger. Good. I didn't expect such a small Stargaze Palace to have two powerful spiritual beasts. It seems that if I don't use some ultimate moves, I will not be able to get rid of you too. After he had finished speaking, a spiritual talisman appeared in Luo Yun's hand. This spiritual talisman was only the size of a palm. However, an extremely strange picture was drawn on it. This picture was of a demonic beast bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. Its entire body was covered with sharp thorns, and its appearance appeared ferocious. Luo Yun gave an eerie smile and threw that spiritual talisman into the sky. Then he chanted, and a wave of indistinct white fog shot out from his palm towards that spiritual talisman. At this moment, suddenly, a wave of yellow light emerged from the sky and shot towards that white fog. Instantly, the yellow light swallowed the white fog and blew it away. Luo Yun's expression changed drastically as he grabbed that spiritual talisman and shouted, "Who dares to ruin my business?" With a flash of yellow light in the sky, countless fragmented yellow lights sparkled like pearls of light. Amidst this light, a light yellow figure appeared. Vividly, she gave off an otherworldly feeling as if an immortal had descended to the mortal world. Qin Wushuang's heart tightened. Why had she come? This figure was Miss Murong. Her graceful figure stood against the wind and walked alone on the mountain path. It made people think that she was an immortal that had descended to the mortal world. Your surname is Luo? Miss Murong said lightly. How could Luo Yun not know her strength? When he saw the temperament of this girl, he knew that she was above him in terms of strength. However, since he came from a heavenly Luo Taoist sect, he had some confidence. He asked coldly, "Where did this woman come from to ruin my business? What kind of business is this? It's not a good thing to summon a demonic beast at the void martial stage, right?" Miss Murong said lightly. A demonic beast at the void martial stage? As soon as she said these words, each of those people before the mountain gate was dumbstruck. Even Bao Bao and the purple flame electric beast revealed a trace of restraining fear. A demonic beast at the void martial stage, combined with this person's strength, would be a disaster. Even with Bao Bao, the purple flame electric beast, and Zhuabuchuan and Tan Zhongqi at the perfect stage, it would most likely be useless. And most likely, the power of the graceful spiritual Bao would be greatly reduced under the pincer attack of two void martial stage elite warriors. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 370. Luo Yin clearly felt that this girl's temperament was stronger than his, as he said with a cold sneer. What relationship do you have at the Stargaze Palace? Are you going to stand up for them? Miss Mu Rong said coldly. What relationship do I have with the Stargaze Palace? You are a disciple of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Could it be you don't know the rules set by each forbidden spiritual zone? Elite warriors above the void martial stage are not allowed to participate in the conflicts of the human countries. Being a disciple of the heavenly Luo Taoist sect, you have killed your way to the human countries. Are you not afraid of the wrath of the people? Of course, Luo Yin knew about this rule. Only, this rule had been established 10,000 years ago. The last time this rule was established, it was during the Beast Rebellion of the Xian Yuan Mound. They had attacked the human countries and created the Beast Rebellion, disaster recorded in history. After the end of this rebellion, this rule was established. In fact, the goal was to protect the survival rights of the human countries. Only 10,000 years was too long. Although the rule was still in place in these 10,000 years, there were still a few incidents that violated the rules. Although it did not lead to a major disaster, in the end, it was left unsettled. Thus, this heavenly Luo Taoist sect was somewhat fearless. After all, to most of the powerhouses in the forbidden spiritual zones, the human countries were of little value. And the Stargaze Palace did not have any backing in the forbidden spiritual zones. Due to this consideration, this Luo Yin had dared to act without restraint. After being berated by Miss Mu Rong, instantly, Luo Yin lost his confidence. He laughed embarrassedly. Miss, I am only investigating the situation. I did not participate directly. Did you see me kill anyone? At this crucial moment, this Luo Yin had acted shamelessly and denied flatly. Instantly, the people of the Stargaze Palace were dumbstruck. Even Mistress Mu Rong did not seem to have expected that Luo Yin would admit defeat. On the contrary, Little Bamboo, who was behind her, chuckled and whispered next to Mistress Mu Rong's ear. Mistress, is he truly someone from the Xianyuan Mound? How could he be so spineless? Miss Mu Rong shook her head with a bitter smile and said, It's best that you can think this way. One thought is good, and the other is evil. If the heavenly Luo Taoist sect wants to interfere, I will report everything that happened here to the Xianyuan clan. By that time, let's see how your heavenly Luo Taoist sect will distinguish before the Xianyuan emperor. Luo Yun's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, Miss, I didn't do anything. Don't splash dirty water on my heavenly Luo Taoist sect. Xiaozhu giggled and said, If it wasn't for my miss, wouldn't you have done everything? Luo Yin hurriedly shook his head. No, no, no. Even if I were to make a move, I would at most probe their strength. I definitely wouldn't kill them. I know what I'm doing. Miss Morong naturally didn't believe this nonsense. She said indifferently, It's best that you didn't do anything. If you did, I would naturally report it truthfully. Luo Yin smiled and said, That's right, that's right. This is a misunderstanding. He then shouted, Zhuatianzi. Zhuatianzi hurried over. Brother Luo, since ancient times, for the powerhouses of the Xianyuan Mound, all elite warriors above the void martial stage could not participate in the conflicts of the human countries. Since the Nine Palace cannot defeat the Stargaze Palace, think of a way yourself. Remember, don't drag the heavenly Luo Taoist sect into this. Of course, Zhuatianzi knew that Luo Yin was saying these words for the sake of courtesy. He could only nod and agree. Of course, this matter is not over. However, I will never invite the void martial stage warriors of the Xianyuan Mound to help. Miss, Zhuetianxi's words are proof. Miss Morong said lightly, I don't listen to what Zhuetianxi has to say. I only want to see what the heavenly Luo Taoist sect does. Luo Yun laughed. My heavenly Luo Taoist sect will not do anything. Ha, nothing. After he had finished, he said to Zhuetianxi, Zhuetianxi, since you have destroyed the foundation of the Nine Palace faction, come back with me to the heavenly Luo Taoist sect to receive your punishment. Zhuetianxi nodded cooperatively. Yes. Luo Yun waved his hand and took Zhuetianxi away. After he had walked a few steps, suddenly, he turned around and said with a smile, Miss, I haven't asked about your background. However, Xiao Zhu said, hurry up and leave if you want to go. Why are you nagging? Luo Yun's face sank as he stared at Xiao Zhu for a while. Then, he forced a smile. Miss, I have another question. Speak. Yes, this Zhuetianxi has always been a figure from the human countries. If he successfully breaks through the spiritual martial force and enters the void martial stage, it would not count as the heavenly Luo Taoist sect breaking the 10,000-year promise, right? Miss Morong was at a loss for words. Indeed, it would not count. Just as she was thinking about how to speak, Qin Wushuang said, if Zhuetianxi enters the void martial stage, the Stargaze Palace will welcome him. Luo Yun kept sneering. Good. Heroes come from the young. This young man is straightforward. Miss Morong withdrew her gaze when she saw Luo Yun and Zhuetianxi walking away. Qin Wushuang walked up and cupped his hands in a salute. Miss Morong is so righteous. The Stargaze Palace is truly grateful. Miss Morong did not put on any airs as she said with a smile. No need to be so polite, young Master Qin. I only did what I should do when I saw injustice. By doing this, the heavenly Luo Taoist sect is destroying the order of the Tianxian land and causing unnecessary conflicts. However, to the Stargaze Palace, it's a great favor. Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh. Zhuetianxi walked up and greeted her without losing his manners. This miss is extraordinary and should be an elite warrior from the Xian Yuan Mount. Since the Stargaze Palace is able to resolve this disaster, we must thank you. You speak too seriously, Palace Master. Miss Morong returned the courtesy. I have met young Master Qin once and have some friendship with him. For these little things, I do not deserve your favor. Little Bamboo laughed. My miss has always been worried about people's danger and hates injustice the most. Little Bamboo, don't talk too much. Miss Morong scolded lightly. Little Bamboo giggled. That's right. Okay, then I will not speak anymore. Bao scurried over. Sister Morong, are you still treating Bao to drinks? Miss Morong said, Bao, I will treat you to drinks when you visit the Xian Yuan Mount. Bao scratched his furry head and chuckled. Okay, it's a deal. Miss Morong nodded and said to the people of the Stargaze Palace, the heavenly Luo Taoist sect should not come to cause trouble unless they do not want to stay in the Xian Yuan Mount. Young Master Qin, I will take my leave now. Qin Wushuang immediately said, Miss Morong, are you not going to be a guest at the Stargaze Palace for a few days? Miss Morong smiled lightly. I still have some worldly matters to take care of. I will not disturb you. She turned around and said to Little Bamboo, Little Bamboo, let's go. Inwardly, Little Bamboo gave a long sigh. Okay. She felt that her miss was strange. When she did not see young Master Qin, she had traveled thousands of miles to see him. Now that she had seen him, she was leaving. After they had left the Stargaze Palace, Little Bamboo could not help but ask, Miss, we do not have any worldly matters to take care of. You are leaving as soon as you saw young Master Qin? Miss Morong gave a long sigh. Little Bamboo, I don't want to implicate the Stargaze Palace. Miss, you save them. Why do you say implicate them? Miss Morong said lightly, if that guy from the heavenly Luo Taoist sect had gone back and talked about us, the higher-ups of the Luo family would have guessed my identity. I am afraid they would suspect my relationship with the Stargaze Palace. If I stayed, it would cause more trouble for the Stargaze Palace, and they would not be able to explain themselves. Little Bamboo nodded thoughtfully. Miss, I am afraid that guy will stir up trouble when he returns. If they truly want to deal with the Stargaze Palace, even if they are not afraid of elite warriors at the Void Martial stage, they would have many ways. Miss Mourong gave a long sigh. It will be fine as long as they do not send elite warriors at the Void Martial stage to participate. Once they do, the balance of power will be broken. The disaster of the human countries would erupt again. I truly hope that such a thing would not happen. Suddenly, Little Bamboo said, Miss, if you're truly worried, why don't we return to the Xian Yuan Mound and ask the Patriarch to communicate with the heavenly Luo Daoist sect? Miss Mourong scolded lightly. How can we do that? For sure. Father would be suspicious of why I am suddenly interested in the conflicts of the human countries. This won't work, that won't work. I really don't know what to do. Miss Mourong said, Let nature take its course. I believe that young Master Qin is a person with great fortune. He will have a way to resolve it. Little Bamboo laughed. Since Miss knows that young Master Qin is a person with great fortune, why did you come from thousands of miles away to deliver the message? There is no need to worry. Girl, you are too talkative. Between their conversation, this master and subordinate had gone far away. Qin Wushuang watched them leave from the mountain gate. Only when their figures had disappeared did he withdraw his gaze. Inwardly, he felt somewhat lost. Suddenly, Bao Bao laughed evilly. Boss Wushuang, are you reluctant to let senior sister Mourong go? Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh. Miss Mourong is a refined person. Her zither music was like the sound of nature. After today, I don't know when I will have the opportunity to listen to that exceptional zither music. Bao Bao laughed. Didn't senior sister Mourong say that she wanted me to be a guest at the Xian Yuan Mound when Boss Wushuang comes with me? Wouldn't you have the opportunity to hear it? While they were talking, Zhuo Buqian and the others walked over and asked about the background of this Miss Mourong. Previously, Tan Zhongqi had heard Qin Wushuang mention Miss Mourong. He could not help but ask, Wushuang, the one you met at the imperial capital of the Nine Raven Empire, was it this Miss Mourong? Yes, it's this Miss Mourong, Tan Zhongqi said with a cold tone. This Miss Mourong has a powerful temperament and unfathomable strength. Wushuang, this Miss Mourong is not simple. Zhuo Buqian gave a long sigh. Today, it's all thanks to this Miss Mourong. Or else, that Void Martial stage elite warrior of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect would not have been easy to deal with. Suddenly, Zhong Wuyin cried out, Chem, where is Shi Chenglong? He was here a moment ago. Where did he go? Hearing Zhong Wuyin shout, the others started to look around in shock. Before that, Luo Yun and Zhuo Tianxi had appeared. Shi Chenglong had followed them. How come this old guy disappeared all of a sudden? Yes, I didn't see how he left, Zhuo Buqian said with a bitter smile. No need to look for him. Shi Chenglong is already gone. A moment ago, when that elite warrior at the refined Void Martial stage said that he was not a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, he had already left quietly. Tan Zhongqi also shook his head with a bitter smile. This Dragon Tiger sect is cowardly. How could they deserve to be called the Dragon and Tiger sect? Let's just change their name to the Cat and Snake sect. By the way, Head Palace Master, are we still going to follow the original plan? Follow the original plan, use the name of the Stargaze Palace, and send out invitations to gather all the eastern countries. Those who do not come will bear the consequences. Finally, Zhuo Buqian had revealed his gentle and refined side. Domineering, towering. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.